Is that Donald Trump is saying now that he should have a deal with Iran by the weekend, but we know how that's kind of wishy-washy. So the main news of the day is that SpaceX, Elon Musk, is going to IPO today. If you don't know what IPO is, basically means that SpaceX, which is owned by Elon Musk, will be hitting the stock market today. So that's what we all waiting on right now. We're all waiting on the IPO of SPX. We're all waiting on it to hit the stock market. So as of right now, it's not on the, real-time quotes. In other words, it has not gone active yet. So usually these IPOs, when they are officially, these companies are officially hitting the stock market, usually it's around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, something like that, whenever we officially see these companies get listed. So we're just waiting right now. We're just waiting. You know what I'm saying? We're just waiting on the stock market to do what it do. But today is the day. SpaceX will be on the stock market today. You know what I'm saying? Let me show it again right here. We're just waiting. You know what I'm saying? You see SpaceX, is the ticker symbol for SpaceX is SPCX. And we're waiting on it to hit the stock market today. So I'm going to look and see what the overall market is looking like right now. Let me go to the daily. Right now, we had a big sell-off, right? But now we're getting back above these levels. We're getting back above 171.50. We're trying to get back above that. As everybody, the whole stock market, everybody is waiting for, everybody is waiting for SpaceX to hit. So I need to go and put it on my watch list. I need to go and put it on the watch list. Hold up. So what's up, chat? Well, while I'm doing this, I got to put it on the watch list, which I got it. The watch list is like the main stocks that you watch. Right now, I just got it on this side, like when you type in the symbol, but I got to add it to the watch list. So I'll go over here where everything else is. So I don't want to just be allowed y'all to just be looking at a blank screen while I do this. So right now, what's going on is we got the United States Energy Secretary. He's talking about the global markets. Chris Wright, he's the U.S. Energy Secretary of the United States. So we're waiting. We're not waiting. We are listen to him talk about energy and gas prices and everything, because as we are hearing is that Donald Trump and Iran is supposed to sign a deal sometime this weekend. But, we always say that. And then Monday to be something totally different, but at the same time, a lot of things and a lot of good, big moves happens over the weekend. So hopefully we praying that there is a good deal and we can end this crisis, particularly with all that oil being, stuck over there in that river, so let's just go over here so we can hear this, and let's see how many people in the building. We got 4 people here. Appreciate everybody. Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Rumble. Appreciate y'all for coming through. What's up to Don? I got everything up ready to rock. So I'm gonna quit talking. What's up, chat? Appreciate y'all for joining me. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. This is the Freedom of Speech channel. And what we're waiting on 2 major things that's supposed to happen today. I'm not talking about the NBA Finals, but 2 things are happening today. Elon Musk, SpaceX, is now finna go live on the stock market. And number 2 is that Donald Trump is saying that they have struck a deal with Iran and they're supposed to sign the deal. He's saying this weekend, but you know how it goes. He come and tell us one thing, and then it's always another thing. It's always something different. So it's 2 things that we're watching today, but the main thing that I'm watching is this IPO. Elon Musk, SpaceX, is fixing to hit the stock market today. Any minute, any hour, any second, it's going to go live on the stock market. That's what I'm waiting on right now. So let's go chat and let's hear what the Energy Secretary Chris Wright is going to tell us.
Through the East-West pipeline and the UAE pipeline, close to 5 million barrels of that has been diverted. We've got increased production. It was pretty easy to do a few other places. I think in round numbers, you had maybe a 14 million barrel a day flow gap, which is a big flow gap of oil going out of the Gulf at the start of this conflict, or early on in this conflict. We have a military effort that we've not talked a lot about. It started more recently to get cargoes out, because President Trump said at the beginning, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we'll restore energy flows in the United States with or without Iran. He always prefers the diplomatic arm, and he works tirelessly on that. But we also have the most powerful military in the world. We've destroyed most, but not all of their military capabilities, and we're just going to restore flows ourselves. And flows today approaching half of the gap, and they're rising. So ultimately, we will restore flows with or without them.
So 7 million barrels a day are getting out right now?
That's a rough estimate, a rough average of where we are right now, and it's rising.
So what kind, is this oil? Is it products? Fertilizer?
Mix of the two.
And it's being done with the U.S. military?
Correct.
So are ships turning off their transponders, or is the military escorting them? Is it by air? Is it by sea?
It's hard to transport crude by air.
Well, I mean protective.
But yes,
what does it look like?
the military protection is there. It's actually going remarkably well. And of course, this is just a U.S. innovation, U.S. military power solving a problem. And we'll continue to solve that problem. So think of that impact that has on the dynamics. If I'm in Iran, and of course, they're not concerned about Iranian people, right? They're concerned about their regime and themselves personally. So they have a little bit of a narrower focus on what they care about. But they've thought they have this great leverage over the United States of America. Of course, it isn't really leverage over us. It's leverage over the world economy. But they're losing that leverage right now. They are rapidly and will continue to lose that leverage. So you would think that their urgency to do a deal is rising, and it is rising. They realize, the jig is going to be up before too long. What can they get?
How much Iranian crude is getting out right now?
Zero.
No Iranian crude is able to escape?
No.
So if this deal were to happen, would the United States let Iranian crude go through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, it depends on the deal. But of course, that is a give we would certainly be willing to do. Absolutely. If Iran gets rid of their nuclear program, achieves what we want us to do, their crude would be allowed to flow again. Absolutely.
So that would be lifting of sanctions, basically, on Iranian oil.
Their crude was flowing before, during sanctions. Unfortunately, same thing in Venezuela. The world puts sanctions on, and then the world doesn't enforce the sanctions because it's hard to enforce sanctions. But if you really believe in the sanctions, you need to enforce them. So you could see partial lifting of sanctions on Iran would likely be on the give side for the United States.
According to Iranian press, the deal says within 30 days, the strait would open, the blockade would be lifted. Is that your understanding? And if it is true, what does it look like then in 30 days? If we're already getting 7 million barrels through, how much higher could you see the flow rate?
I mean, the flow rates would return to whatever's commercially, makes sense there. So, but, you're clearly going to see after this conflict people to say Iran can never play that card again. You'll probably see some new pipeline infrastructure built. You'll certainly see continued innovations in military technology from the United States to defang more easily and more quickly Iran's ability to interrupt the flows as they've done there. But yeah, certainly after an agreement is reached, you'll see free flow of traffic of all products out of the Gulf or whatever. You'll see that either way. If there is no deal with Iran, eventually we would restore that militarily full flow as well.
Prices have been relatively depressed given the intensity of the conflict. I believe we're down 20% on Brent since April. Prices this morning were in the 80s. What is the driving force behind this?
It's amazing the difference in attitude and positioning of a president. President Trump came into office and said, I want lower energy prices. I want more energy production. I want to embrace American allies around the world and the Persian Gulf energy producers. I should never call it Persian Gulf, the Arabian Gulf. I slipped up there. But the Biden administration, scorned them, said we're going to end the hydrocarbon industry, just that rhetoric, that chilling rhetoric, that shunning of our allies. When Russia invaded Ukraine, there was almost no interruption of flow of Russian crude. There was natural gas via pipeline into Europe, but there was not a meaningful reduction of Russian oil or oil product exports. And we had gasoline prices $1 a gallon higher then than we have today with this large interruption of flows. I think that's President Trump's leadership in saying we care about energizing the world and we're going to do whatever it takes to supply the world. Obviously we released, not just in the United States, but around the world, stocks from strategic petroleum reserves. We've had 2 extensions of the Jones Act waiver to allow crude supply from the Gulf Coast, where it's coming from here region.
Will you do another extension? Actually, that's an audience question.
We'll do whatever it takes to keep energy prices as low as possible for the American people. California has chosen to impose on their people wildly high gasoline, diesel, and electricity prices. Just crazy. And so a lot of people would say, well, we shouldn't care. That's a blue state. We're here for 340 million Americans in every state across the country. So the Jones Act waiver has been enormously helpful for California and the West Coast, the Northeast coast of the United States as well. So it's allowing the free flow of that traffic. We turned back on a platform producing 50,000 barrels a day offshore California. Wells are already there. Infrastructure is already there. It grew California oil production by 20%. That's a big deal. That's a meaningful amount of flows, and it sends a message that this administration is going to help the flow of energy around the world. People are surprised that oil prices throughout all this have not gone to the extreme levels many expected.
Isn't also because China is cutting some of their imports? Was there a conversation between the Chinese and the White House about this?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations between the White House and the Chinese, and I won't talk about that. But you saw at the start of the conflict, China was they actually stepped up their purchases of crude oil, and as you see now, they're in a very different position where they've stopped building their SPR, they've turned down some refineries. China has been a meaningful part of the balancing force in this crisis.
There was a recent Washington Post article, actually it was yesterday, about oil executives telling the White House and warning them that potentially prices are going to go higher soon. Are we living on inventories? Where do you see the inventories right now? How low are we?
It's different in different places. It's different. Oil inventories in the last few weeks in Asia are rising. And so in the United States, we have stepped in to fill this void. We've seen incredible response from American oil and gas companies, not just raising production, but raising refinery throughput to a significant scale. In fact, if you look at the May data, the United States was by far the world's largest exporter of crude oil, 5.4 million barrels a day. Russia, a little over 4 million. Saudi Arabia, a little under 4 million. But United States producers have stepped up, and from our reserves and from other stores, to try to supply not just America, but the world. But we've also had the benefit of, average gasoline prices in the U.S. a little over $4 a gallon. It's a little under $10 a gallon in Europe and in Asia. So we have not been completely isolated from the impacts of this, but we have been much more isolated than everyone else. That's leaning in and being pro-energy. That's Trump administration energy policy.
Has there been an ask or pressure from the White House on the industry to produce more?
Pressure is the wrong word, but of course we dialogue with industry across all sectors in this economy. We're not there pursuing some crazy agenda, as unfortunately the Biden administration was. We're there to engage with American businesses and help them grow their businesses. Whether they're building artificial intelligence factories or new manufacturing plants or oil and gas or coal or electricity of any kinds. We want to see America thrive. We want to see energy production increase. We want to see prices to consumers go down. We want to see competitiveness to do business in the United States grow. Higher wages, lower costs.
But there is a concern that potentially if we're running low on inventories and say we don't get a peace deal this weekend and we're back to potentially strikes or this lingers, the president in a recent interview said it could be closed until September. Then what happens if we get higher gasoline prices in America, closer to $5 a gallon?
Look, we've done everything we can since the day it started to both fix the existential problem. A nuclear-armed Iran becomes a much larger threat to energy supplies, to peace, to commerce. That people just don't appreciate how critical that issue is. So to solve that fundamental problem, it's coming at disruptions. It's coming at some costs. And to get through, to achieve the fundamental objective that we will not fail on.
So what kind of levers? There were rumors months ago about an export ban. I know you said that's not happening. That will never happen?
No export bans. No export bans. A couple of reasons. Number one, we produce more than we consume. So what are we going to do? Shut in our wells and reduce our production down? Number two is a large part of the Trump administration diplomacy is to make America an energy superpower, which means to be a reliable supplier to our friends and allies abroad of oil, of natural gas, of coal, of next-generation nuclear power plants, of fusion energy technology. We want to develop energy resources in this country to benefit Americans and to benefit our trade balance abroad and support our allies so they don't have to depend upon unstable, hostile suppliers.
Regimes. There was a recent Reuters poll that showed 80% of Americans say the current gas prices are straining their household budgets. Is the administration still pushing Congress to look at a gas tax holiday, especially over the summer?
Trade-offs in all of these issues, but the overriding objective is lower energy costs for Americans across the board.
So is that a yes? I mean, is it still one of the tools in the toolbox?
It's possible. It's possible.
Do you think Congress has the votes? You'd probably have to do it before the midterms.
Yeah, look, my bigger effort right now in Congress is permitting reform. You know, we want to leave behind as much permanent change as we can. So we won't go back to the energy foolishness we suffered under the Biden administration and it began under the Obama administration. We just got to stop this mindset that somehow making energy expensive in the United States and exporting our industries is somehow going to save the world from climate change. I've been looking at data and studying climate change for 20 years. It's just amazing how that issue, a real issue, but sort of a slow-moving, actually not that big deal of a problem, has just become so politically dominant among the left in the United States and, of course, across the board in Europe. I think we are moving that tide.
Hey, what's up, Savannah?
Get back to focusing on human beings.
It is shifting. You hear a lot of Democrats now, especially ahead of the midterms, especially ahead of 2028, saying we should focus energy more about using an all-of-energy approach because they want to talk about affordability, less so about climate change. When it comes, though, to policies that the United States could do, besides the Jones Waiver Act, anything else that you think could be pretty short-term on the horizon for this summer?
Things we're talking about, but not we look through ideas and decide if they're viable, and we'll come out and engage in that. But of course, it is a constant dialogue with energy producers here. How can we be helpful? Like EPA, we changed the regulations for blending for gasoline this summer. That's going to meaningfully increase America's ability to produce gasoline with our existing refinery capacity. That's going to be helpful.
There's also the drawdown the SPR. Do you have plans to refill it?
Yeah, there's another, I would say, stark contrast. The previous administration sold 200 million barrels of oil without an interruption of flow around the world, trying to push down prices for a midterm election. We've not sold a single barrel of oil. Every barrel of oil we have released has been a trade. It's been an exchange for a barrel coming back. And the exchanges we completed so far, this is not the current ones that are going on right now. I don't have the data on them. But to date, every barrel we've released, we've gotten 1.28 barrels coming back. So that's 35 to 40 million barrels of additional crude that'll be in the SPR at no cost to American taxpayers.
Where do you think the SPR will be at the end of Trump's term?
Much fuller than it was before we arrived. I would like it to be completely full. That's what it's there for.
Is there a price level that you would want to go out and fill it up more?
If there was, I certainly wouldn't share it. But also, it's not as simple as that. You know, you've got to get money from Congress to fill the SPR, and that's very challenging. There's not a great political constituency that wants to spend money today, you know, to prepare us for a problem way down the road, which is exactly why no previous president would take Iran head on. Like in the short term, it's disruptive. Fixing long-term problems, that's tough to do in politics. That's a unique thing about President Trump. He has the courage to take on this Iranian issue where all the news is short-term. He's terrible. Iran's winning and all that. It's all wrong. It's all nonsense. We are living with higher energy prices. He takes all the negative, but people don't, certainly in the media in general, don't think about these long-term issues. He's engaging in a long-term strategic issue that's going to better not just the Middle East, but the world for generations to come. And he's taken whatever the heat comes, you know, through higher prices. But I think he's managed that quite well. So the impacts are real, but again, less impact on prices than just the foolish policies and rhetoric of the Biden administration.
Do you think the psychology has changed? It used to be that OPEC, Saudi Arabia, now the UAE has left, was the swing producer, the central bank of oil. Why wouldn't it be the United States?
Well, we produce far, far more than Saudi Arabia. In fact, you know, the way people report 100 million to 105 million barrels of demand, that's liquid fuels. Crude oil is the biggest component of that, but it's just one piece of that. If you look at total liquid fuels, the United States is 24 million barrels a day of production in a world of about 105, 106 million of demand. So, yeah, we are the big dog in energy production. But it's all by businesses here. We don't decide at a government level our production levels, so we never play a role as a short-term swing producer. We do lean in as we are right now, but I think Saudi Arabia's role in the oil markets likely will continue as it has. They have been willing, and with a few partners, but mostly Saudi Arabia, they have played a sort of central bank role of oil. I think the net impact of that overall has been positive.
But do you think their hand has been weakened with the Emiratis leaving the group?
Sure. Less oil will be controlled in that OPEC fashion. UAE is a major oil producer, super successful economy in that country, and they're investing and growing their productive capacity. Kuwait is leaning in and growing their productive capacity. People are just getting out of this silly mindset. Like the goal was to hit peak demand for oil, right? And then we're all, that 7 billion people that don't live like us, sorry about them. You know, it's just crazy how far off a human-focused and a math-focused dialogue we're in. I'm thrilled that the world is swinging back to common sense. It's thinking long-term. We need massively more oil in the world, massively more natural gas, massively more energy to continue to grow our economy, to reindustrialize our industry, and to lift everyone's standard of living up around the world.
An audience question, also something I'm curious to get your take on, is American investment regarding Venezuela. I was there in Caracas. You were the first secretary to go to Venezuela since the capturing of Nicolas Maduro. What is the status now? When was the last time you spoke to Delcy Rodriguez? Do you expect more American companies to go produce there?
Lots of American companies going down there, a lot of business. We are working, my team, and including myself, is in regular communication with Delcy. 25 years going the wrong direction. You know, Venezuela is another case. Amazing how low it's sunk. 8 million people leaving, millions leaving Venezuela to go to poorer countries. So, is it Norway today? It's not Norway yet. But the pivot, the change in the improvement in the conditions in Venezuela is going quite well right now. A lot of work to be done there, but oil exports out of Venezuela have more than doubled since January 2nd of this year. So that's also helpful. And of course, when most of the American refineries were built in the 60s and 70s, Venezuela was the largest exporter of oil in the world. Third largest producer, biggest oil exporter. So a lot of our refineries were built to handle those lower cost, high viscosity crudes. So it's great news to see that production growing. I think you will see tremendous growth in Venezuelan production in the coming years.
Another question from the audience is about the surge in power demand for data centers. Why is the Trump administration not embracing all sources of power, including renewables?
Well, embrace, it depends how you view the word embrace. The wind subsidies went on for 34 years.
President Trump doesn't like windmills.
No, he doesn't like windmills. But he doesn't, like a lot of people don't like windmills. You know, the public pushback across the heartland of America and certainly in the coastline of America against wind power has been enormous. And the other thing, put in context, wind power, think of how much money has been spent on that. It's 1.5% of global energy. And everywhere it's got deep penetration, you know, Germany, Denmark, United Kingdom, most expensive electricity prices in the world. Does President Trump want to have the most expensive electricity prices in the world? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the people look at this stuff wrong. They think of electricity like gasoline or oil, where you can store it and sort of use it, because it doesn't work that way. So we look at the data. Oh, my gosh, if you add up wind and solar last year, you know, they were 16 or 17% of electricity. They're meaningful for American electrons. Why don't we get more of those electrons on the grid? That's not the way to think about electricity. Electricity is all about what's the most efficient way to deliver at peak demand time. When we had that cold winter storm Fern that came down the end of January, probably the greatest test we've seen of the East Coast electricity grid. At peak demand time on January 27th in New England in the evening, 2% of New England's electricity came from wind, solar, and batteries combined. 3% of New England electricity came from burning trash and wood, right? That's, if you're there in the middle of the day when we don't really need you, all you're doing is saying some other producing some source, typically it's a natural gas power plant, has to turn down. You know, you're not adding to the capacity of the grid unless you're reliably there at peak demand time. And as Democrats have pushed a little bit more heating to electrification, which is a horribly bad idea, it's a guaranteed way to make heating much more expensive. And we can't put nearly as much energy through our electricity grid as we can through our natural gas pipeline network. But in any case, those policies are happening. So peak demand times are more and more going to the winter. You know, think of in New England and New York State. Solar is irrelevant in the winter. And when you get a large cold front that comes in, it's a high pressure air mass that just sits there. Well, wind goes away too. So all that stuff you built, all those associated transmission lines, they don't add anything to the productive capacity of the grid. They produce electricity some of the time, but that's not what matters. You have to be there at peak demand time. If we're going to put on new AI data centers and reshore manufacturing, we have to increase our capacity to reliably supply at peak demand time. We want to do that as economically efficiently and as quickly as we can. We're doing everything we can to get nuclear going. That's coming. We had reactors already go critical. But in the short term, in the next few years, it's going to be natural gas. It's going to be expansion of existing. We're restarting 3 large nuclear power plants. We're uprating a number of power plants. We're changing some foolish regulations. The only reason we didn't have to close the schools in Florida during that cold front is we said all that massive amount of backup generators, turn them on. Don't wait till the lights go out and we have a blackout and then turn them on just for your store. Turn them on, and that's added capacity to the grid. So we're having to do some creative things so that we can enable reshoring of manufacturing here, meet this rising demand for AI, and ultimately just change the way decisions are made at FERC and hopefully ultimately across state utility commissions. We changed mandate from affordable, reliable electricity for Americans and American industry, and we just got off track, and the country just went crazy as Europe did, thinking somehow tweaking the American electricity grid was going to change global emissions. Just a colossal mistake.
This is a more sophisticated answer than the president saying the windmills are not good for the birds, so I appreciate that. Just my final question, because I think I was the first reporter to ask you if you were going to go to Venezuela, and you said yes, and then you went. Would you be the first secretary to maybe, I don't know, go to Oman and see vessels come through, or even maybe go to Iran at some point?
It's funny, early on in this crisis, the president, who has an underappreciated great sense of humor, we were at dinner, I don't remember where we were, and he said, "Have you told Liz you're going to Iran yet?"
Really?
He did say that. He did say that. So, you know, who knows? Again, the goal is to drive progress. The goal is to drive improvement. If we get a reasonable resolution and we're implementing something, it's certainly a possibility.
Maybe I can come on that trip with you. Secretary Wright, thank you so much for
Fantastic.
joining us.
Thank you.
All right, that was Bloomberg Anne-Marie Hordern. They're speaking at the Bloomberg Energy Security Executive Briefing in Houston with.
And our thesis is that aside from governments, you know, and NASA who are doing space exploration, that's actually in non-space industries. So financial markets and, you know, global logistics, agriculture, pharmaceutical, that's the market there. And that remains an opportunity for a lot of these innovative companies. I think SpaceX is more of an infrastructure play for those other markets.
It's an infrastructure play for now. It could also become an electric vehicle company soon as well, or that'll be kind of brought into its orbit, because there's a lot of talk about how Elon Musk might combine SpaceX with Tesla.
Yeah.
That just becomes another kind of company then, and not really comparable to what you do.
Yes, I think there's a couple of things there. You know, from SpaceX and Tesla relationship, you know, one of the ideas originally that he wanted to get into EVs is ultimately he wants to be able to, like, you know, have vehicles up on Mars. You know, for that you need electric vehicles and power. So that's part of his broad, you know, interplanetary, you know, species strategy there, right? But when it comes back to, you know, what's back on Earth, it really is about building infrastructure and providing things that are used or created for space, but used back down on Earth. And I think there's enough of an alternate market to SpaceX to allow those things to happen. So an example would be the International Space Station is coming down in a couple of years, and there's going to be new commercial space stations going up, which is going to allow drug research and other types of research and in-orbit manufacturing to happen. That is going to be core in other parts of the infrastructure that the SpaceX will not serve.
How's the capital raising out there other than SpaceX for companies that want to do space-based businesses?
It's actually been very healthy over the last number of years. I mean, you could argue it's been quite healthy over the last 15 years, but the last couple of years, there's definitely been an inflow of private capital. You know, it's not for things that are like rockets and hardware and satellites. It's traditionally not been a venture model,
right?
But I think they're starting to realize that this is a play towards more venture-like businesses that can run on that infrastructure.
You talked about how this will create a liquidity event, this IPO.
Yep.
It's going to make a lot of people rich. We talk a lot about the SpaceX current employees and former employees. If they do become very wealthy and decide to step away and stop working, they may go off and start their own company as well.
Yep.
This creates this large ecosystem. Do you have any sense of timing around how this plays out?
That's a hard one, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lockups in there and a lot of people looking to fulfill the SpaceX mission. But I think certainly over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of that activity happening.
Absolutely. All right, Ross, thanks for joining us. Ross Hamilton,
sure.
Chief Operating Officer of Space Network. Red headline crossing the terminal. That is moving the markets. Iran's Arachi says U.S.-Iran MOU, quote, has never been closer. We've got the S&P lifting higher on that. We've got oil trading lower, so we'll keep an eye on that. For our listeners in the U.S., a reminder, you can listen to us via satellite radio on Sirius XM channel 121. Access the world's only global audio business network, coast to coast, 24 hours a day. Bloomberg Radio on Sirius XM channel 121 is presented by Golden Crest Metals. Stay tuned for the latest market news and industry research. The next hour of Bloomberg Intelligence starts right now. Thank you, Russ.
You know, accurately, you know, is accurate on the web or on within EPS, as an example, and then also getting, as Andrew had said, you know, specialty care like, you know, pulmonology, cardiology, oncology, getting these specialties and the providers that's.
All right, so we were just listening in live there to the House panel speaking on veteran health care and assistance, but we're getting a live update right now coming out of Tracy, California on a warehouse fire. Let's listen in to officials.
Good morning. Brian Bagley, Deputy Chief, Tracy Fire. Yesterday, this fire started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I took incident command very early on in the incident. The Medline facility that's still burning behind me, we had a fire that was somewhere near the top of the roof and somewhere on the inside of the facility. That investigation, whether it started inside or outside, is still underway and still currently happening. We had immediate water challenges with the yard hydrants around the property itself, which created some challenges for our firefighters. They did an aggressive fire attack. Unfortunately, they were not successful. Within 40 minutes, the building was fully consumed with fire. We did a defensive approach at that point. There was a lot of ember casting. As you can imagine, a facility of this size, over 1 million square feet, that ended up going several miles, up to 2.5 miles away from this location, that started several grass fires and almost caught the FedEx facility that's adjacent to the Medline facility. That fire was mitigated by an aggressive fire attack. There was 200 pallets stored up against the FedEx facility, as well as vegetation and trailers that also caught fire. We manage all of our resources from 7 stations, 8 companies. So a fire of this size.
To the latter, especially with OpenAI and Anthropic not far behind. Well, it helps that a U.S.-Iran possible truce has restored a more constructive backdrop for markets just before Elon Musk's big moment. To the big board we go. Everything is up. The S&P up 0.6% or 43 points. The Dow.
Over here, Chad, we still waiting to see when it's gonna hit. We're waiting on the IPO. We're waiting on the release of a SpaceX. And right as of right now, still haven't opened up. So we're still waiting. Usually these things happen right around 12 or 1 o'clock. So we're just waiting.
Anthropic have a similar type of welcoming to the public world. Justice Parmar is with Fortuna Investments.
I think it's going to be an interesting, experiment of sorts. It's never been done before. You want to be out early. I think Elon's done a great job of really pushing his team and his crew to get this stock out early because you're cleaning a lot of money out of the market. And so as the IPOs continue to stack on, you start to inherently develop risk because if one of them starts to trade underwater, it's going to have a follow-over effect on the one preceding that one.
Well, have you questioned just how rich a trillionaire is? Over a 100-year lifetime, guys, it would equal spending $27,000 a day. That's a lot on DoorDash or something like that. Oh boy. As for Elon Musk, with the money, he could fund 68 U.S. election cycles or buy every car maker in Europe, Japan, and the U.S. It's a lot of money.
Yep.
For on-demand news 24 hours a day, subscribe to Bloomberg News Now wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Matt Piper, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Scarlett.
All right, Matt, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Matt Piper. Stocks definitely turning higher, as Matt was reporting on the back of that Iranian news, saying that a deal is pretty darn close. Let's see where some individual stocks are on the move today. We can do that. We are joined by Bloomberg's Avalon Purnell. She's an equity reporter for Bloomberg News. Avalon, what are you looking at today?
We have to start off with Adobe. That's currently falling about 6.7% now to hit its lowest intraday level since 2018. That's ticker ADBE. And that's after the company announced the departure of its CFO just months after the CEO also announced plans to step aside. The news also comes as Adobe reported a second quarter beat, but gave a full year forecast that fell a little short of expectations. And as you can imagine, the update led to a slew of downgrades and price target cuts as Wall Street analysts really questioned the path forward amid this transition. Evercore writing that the sentiment is unlikely to turn positive until a new management team is in place.
Oh boy, so we could be waiting for a while there. Okay, next up.
Lennar, that's ticker LEN, currently dipping about 3.7%. That's after the home builders delivery forecast for the third quarter fell short of expectations. Management again calling out to continuing pressure from high interest rates and geopolitical uncertainty, which is obviously spurring some customers to hold back on purchases. Truist also writing that while the results were fairly disappointing, it was somewhat encouraging that the results did not include a margin breakdown. Also worth noting that their peer, KB Home, called out to similar concerns last quarter, and they will be reporting June 23rd.
I mean, interest rates higher. The 30-year mortgages, that can't be helping. 6.5% for 30-year mortgage?
Exactly.
All right, so there you go. I'm not refinancing the mortgage on the Jersey Shore compound yet. Give us one more here.
Medline, MDLN, currently slipping about 2.3%. That's after the medical supplier suffered another setback from a fire at a distribution facility. Leerink expecting some short-term financial impacts since, at a minimum, this is going to be taking a distribution facility offline. But that's not the only hardship that Medline has faced recently. Just last week, the FDA sent them a warning letter for several contamination incidents at a manufacturing facility. And now that company's stock is down about 12% since its debut as last year's big.
Soon, very soon, maybe over the weekend in Europe. I won't be able to be there, but JD will be there, Vice President, and some of the people. Steve Woodcoff did a great job, Jared. So we'll take some questions, but right now we're here to talk about fishermen and fisherwomen. Okay, we have they're great people. And I guess I'm a little prejudiced because they all voted for me. Would you say I got 100% or just
110%?
I think so. I think if I didn't, we'd have a surprise. We'd have a big surprise. So it's my honor to be taking this action to lower seafood costs and generate millions and millions of dollars in new business for our really great fishermen, great people, by restoring commercial access to 3 areas of the Western Pacific Ocean. It's a large amount of space we're talking about that they were restricted. Other countries would use it, but our country couldn't use it. You ever hear anything so stupid? I want to thank Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy, and Congresswoman Kimberly King Hines for joining us today. We appreciate it all very much. Thank you very much. Thanks as well to Captain Sig Hansen, a superstar. Him and Tom Cruise are the 2 biggest people in entertainment. Thank you very much. Great job. And Pacific Seafood CEO Frank Dulcich and his sons Dominic and Charles, and many more dedicated fishermen and seafood industry leaders. We have some great leaders here. And your product is amazing. It's been going along for a long time, right? Seafood. It's amazing and doing great. Under the Obama-Biden administration's radical environmentalists drastically restricted access for fishermen in coastal communities, and hundreds of thousands of square miles of ocean was cut off for them. They can't fish. Other people could fish. They couldn't. These people weren't allowed to fish. Can you imagine that? Did you ever think that was going to happen as you grew up? Probably as the sons and daughters of fishermen, right? That someday they were going to take away the right for you to go fishing in the Pacific Ocean. What a bunch of dopes. Those decisions close off vast resources and really the richest fishing grounds, they say, anywhere in the world, destroyed livelihoods and made the United States more dependent on foreign products. And I did a similar thing for Maine. Maine is very much in the subject because I have a pig running for the Senate. He's a pig. He's not a senator. He's a joke. He's a con man. But so it's in the, and you know, I won half of Maine. They have 2. I won the one by a lot. The fishermen, actually, come to think of it, fishermen and the lumberjacks, the people that go out there to work. I won them. So I love Maine, but it's amazing. They had I think it was 500 mile by 500 mile, massive amount of the Atlantic Ocean. You weren't allowed to fish, but Canada was. Japan was. They all came in and fished, but our people weren't allowed to fish there. That was put in by Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? Barack Hussein Obama and Sleepy Joe Biden. And it's a shame. I mean, a shame. But I did it a little while ago and opened it up to them. Twice I've done it now, Peter, right?
Sure.
Peter Navarro, the great Peter Navarro. And I did it twice. I did it then, and then they had a rigged election, and I wasn't here. Totally rigged election, just like what was happening in California. You see what, they got the kid out, and then they were doing the same thing to Steve Hilton, and I started bringing it. They said, look, they said, it's going to take 2 more weeks. It was a week, and it was heading south. And I started saying it's a rigged election. And then they said it was going to take 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. And all of a sudden he was approved. You know why? Because the heat was on. They couldn't get away with it. If I didn't do it, I guarantee he wouldn't be the nominee. It's a rigged election. Our country, and we have to get, by the way, the Save America Act has to get passed by the Senate. House has passed it 3 times. But with today's action, we're officially reopening nearly 500,000 square miles, wow, of water around northwestern Hawaiian Islands, northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. I mean, we'll ask you in a second, but why the hell did they close it? Why? Not enough fish, or what's going on? They closed it. Peter, do you have any reasons why they closed it?
Barack Hussein Obama, environmental activists tried to shut it down. But you're right, sir, it's crazy. They let all
Ruined
the
the big
foreign boats,
industry.
the foreign boats come in. It's crazy. And they leave our captains out. It's crazy. It's bad for fish prices, too.
But we're making up for it, right?
Yes, sir.
And this will support millions of dollars in annual harvest of big-eye tuna, swordfish, reef fish, and many other types of fish. It will protect small local fisheries and coastal communities that depend on their livelihoods. I mean, they are very dependent on this. And it will increase domestic seafood production to help lower costs for American communities. And you're talking about millions, tens of millions of dollars of income. And we have so much. These areas, I mean, they just like say, oh, let's just close them. The amazing thing is that other countries, there's no restriction. You know, you can go and do whatever you want. It's just crazy. America's fishermen have never had a better ally in the White House than Donald Trump. That I will say. I shouldn't say that because I don't want to brag, but based on the vote of getting almost every vote ever. But you have never had. And again, in Maine, I opened it up. You know who was fishing there? Canada. Japan was fishing there. Maine lobster. You couldn't get a Maine lobster. You had to go to Japan to get a Maine lobster. You believe it? You had to go to Canada to get a Maine lobster. They were fishing there. Not only that, you had to go a day and a half in a boat, and they had you at 3 knots. That means like essentially a little bit different than 3 miles an hour, but it means slow. 3 knots until you got outside of this 500-mile area because they didn't want you to disturb the fish that you weren't allowed to fish for. No, but think of it. These people are crazy. And the new thing they had was you had to have an electric boat, even though they didn't work, and even though once you got out there, you had a problem because you couldn't get back because they didn't charge long enough. These are problems that were mentioned to them, and they said, we don't care. You have to have an electric boat. And the other problem was the battery is much heavier, as you know. Yeah. So the boat has a tendency to sink. And they were forced, you know, by 2030 or so, you were forced to have an electric boat. I don't think you were too happy with that, right?
Not at all.
Anyway, but this is going to support millions and millions of people. America's fishermen have just, they're special people. And it's fishermen and fisherwomen. So tell me, how do they define that? Because in most industries, like you have policemen, policewomen, do you call them fishermen and fisherwomen? I haven't heard of that one before. They put it, how would the women do? They want to be designated as fisherwomen? Does anybody want to answer that question?
They'll take fishermen.
Yes, they take a fishermen, fisherwomen.
How about fisher people?
If you want to be politically correct, sometimes they use the term fisher, but
fisher.
I like fisherman or fisherwoman myself.
How about fisher people?
There we go.
These people are crazy.
So President Trump, I Googled that because I had the same dilemma you did, trying to figure out, be politically correct.
And what is the answer?
So the Google answer said that most women attribute to fishermen because they feel like they're strong individuals and they can do the work of a man.
Well, be careful. That might be the end of your career. My administration's already rolled back burdensome regulations to increase gear flexibility. You know what that means, right? Do you know what that means? I heard they made you buy gear that you didn't want. Yeah. And that didn't work. Other than that, it was quite good. Expedite, I guarantee the guy made contributions to find whoever owns the company that made the bad gear. Expedite fishing start dates and significantly raise catch limits based on the best available science. You know about that? That's unbelievable. We expanded access to key fishing grounds in the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, including vast areas off the coast of New England. I mentioned 500 miles. By 500 miles, that's a lot. That's a lot of fish. It's a lot of lobster that was being sold by Japan. I will tell you, foreign countries are very happy because they ended up taking over the Maine lobster business. Maine lobster business live from Japan, right? But we gave it back to them. These actions have unlocked billions of dollars in economic value and protected thousands and thousands of jobs from great people that voted for Trump. And they voted for me because of common sense, that's all it is. Because anybody can see this stuff is crazy. This is one industry, but other industries likewise. And right now we have $18 trillion being invested in our country. And under the last administration it was less than one. And this is 18 trillion, by the way, in less than a year. It was 4 years less than one. Right, Howard?
That's correct.
By restoring fishing access to these waters in the Western Pacific, we're reclaiming our maritime heritage, empowering American fishermen, and putting American consumers first with lower prices. You're going to have more fish, lower prices. So now let's hear from first Secretary Lutnick and then Secretary Berger, followed by Governor Dunleavy and Frank Duelstich and Captain Sig Hansen. And then we'll take some questions and maybe you want to hear a little bit about some other subjects. But to me, it's really important. I'm going to sign this now so that we get it done. No auto pen? I don't want an auto pen. Can you believe 94% signed by an auto pen? Can you believe that? I think it's higher than 94%. The only one that was definitely signed by him that we know of, you know what it was? It was his son. It was his son. His son, that was the only one. You could tell, you know why? Because his signature was horrible.
Man, you can't stop talking about Joe Biden.
Okay.
Here we go.
Do we like to speak? Yeah, go ahead.
So, this action, 500,000 square miles.
What's up, Chad? Before we go to the next segment of him taking questions, what I've noticed the last few months, all he tell us it's a deal, then it's not a deal. So I don't really take that too serious. I'm not going to take it serious until I know, for a fact that the deal is done. But when the deal is done, I think that everything start getting back to normal. But if there's not no real deal, like the guy said that we was watching earlier, gas prices are going to go even higher. Oil prices are really going to go higher as we enter July and August. But hopefully this time it's a deal. So what do you think, chat? The people that's in the chat, there's a poll. Do you believe Trump has an Iran deal? Me personally, I don't think the deal is going to happen. I think it's going to be another spinoff. Hopefully, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be another spinoff. But in the meantime, what we're really waiting on is SpaceX to hit the stock market. So I'm going to check on that real quick, chat. Then we're going to go and hear, these questions that they're going to be asking Trump. Let's go over here and see what's going on the stock market first. Okay, look, it ain't up yet, so we still waiting. Usually, with my experience, usually it's going to be right around lunchtime or maybe a little bit after lunchtime when these IPOs really go live. You know what I'm saying? So we're waiting on Elon Musk, SpaceX, to go live on this great stock market. That's what we're waiting on right now. And we're going to look at what the S&P 500, the market, well, that's NVIDIA. The market and everything is starting to rise, starting to go up. We did have a dip, big V-shaped recovery. Now we back above 743.25, trying to get above trying to get back up to 740, as everybody's anticipating on this SpaceX, Elon Musk, SpaceX hitting the stock market. Let's look at Tesla. See what Tesla got going on. Where, a lot of people in Tesla are probably going to pull some profits, you know what I'm saying, and move that money into SpaceX. That's what I think over there, because Tesla has been basically going down. So, some people are going to take profits from over there and move it to SpaceX. Me personally, the opening price of SpaceX, according to this, is going to be $135. When it comes to my long-term investing, because I'm going to invest long-term in SpaceX. For me, that basically makes sense. But I'm going to wait. I'm not going to jump in long-term, at 135. Me personally, I'm going to wait a while. I'm going to wait a couple of weeks, maybe a month. I wanted to get down at least to under 100, something like that. Then I'm going to start, buying in for long-term at that particular point. But I might, because there's going to be a lot of volume coming in. I'm going to get me a day trade on SpaceX today, an in and out trade just for today. That's my plans on today, is to try to get me a good day trade on the run up. And if you don't know, you can't do contracts on these companies that hit the stock market for the first time. You got to wait for 30 days. So on this particular play, I'm not going to use options. I'm not, I'm going to buy shares. I'm going to buy me some shares with the mindset of just pulling profit. That's my plan today. Today trade SpaceX. But long term, I'm going to wait till it get up under 100. Hopefully 70, around $70. Then, that'll be a good price. 135, that's, in my opinion, this is me. That's kind of like going to be at the top right now. I want to get a good price around under 100, right around 100. I start buying some shares, like 3 or 4, something like that. Hopefully it'll come down to around 70 or 80, half of the 135 or half of whatever the high is going to be today. Hopefully then, but I'm not going to buy long term at a high price. I don't want to start my positions already in the red. I want to get a discount. Like I say all the time over here, I like to buy these companies at a discount. So that's what I'm waiting. That's what we're waiting on right now. Hopefully it will go live while I'm on this live stream. As we see Tesla trying to move on up. Tesla trying to move on up. The stock market, man, is booming. Everybody's anticipating on this SpaceX Elon Musk IPO. Everything is starting to move. NVIDIA. What else? Even Bitcoin. Let's look at some other ones. Google, shout out to YouTube. Apple is the only one that's red at this time, but everything else is looking good. Google, all the big boys. All the big boys. So let's go back over here where Donald Trump is, and let's see him answer these questions. As we also waiting on, he said that him and Iran has a deal and that they're supposed to be signing this deal by this weekend. Out of scale of 1 to 10, my thoughts, my opinion, I believe it about 5 out of 10. I don't really believe it. I'm gonna just be honest with y'all, chat. That's my personal opinion. I would be heavily surprised if it's really a deal with Iran that's going to happen this weekend, I will be really, really, really surprised. At this point, Chad, some of the things that Trump says is kind of getting hard to really just believe. Like his credibility, especially when it comes to this war, his credibility is starting to, in my opinion, according to me, my beliefs, Trump's credibility, he's losing it with me personally, because he say one thing, then it's another. When it comes to this war, you know, that's what I'm talking about. So let's see what these questions are and what he says. But one thing, Chad, I want him to stop talking about Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? I want him to stop talking about Joe Biden. I want him to stop talking about Kamala Harris. I want him to stop talking about Obama. You know, I want him to, because he always bring them up so much. Like, stop bringing them up, bro.
Were closed to American fishermen. You couldn't go and fish 500,000 square miles. I mean, just think of how big that is. And if you had an American flag, you weren't allowed there. But of course, everybody else went. So they went in our waters. These are our waters. And so what did that result in? That resulted in us, instead of having seafood exports, because we have great fishing opportunity, we were an importer. We became an importer of seafood. How crazy is that? So the president is finally changing that. This is a massive win for our fishermen, a massive win for our waterfront communities who process it, all these processors. And in the end, we are going to eat fish caught by us. What a shock. Eating fish caught by us in our waters. So this is just common sense, smart. We already have the best conservation rules in the world, and this was one on top of another on top of another. So thank God, from the fisherman's perspective, and I get these calls all the time, that President Donald Trump is in this office because he's finally letting our great fishermen and fisherwomen get out there and catch fish and stop importing fish. Let's eat fish caught by Americans.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's up, Chad? How y'all doing out there? It's a busy day for me, so I'm not really interacting with the chat that much. It's a really busy day. I'm watching about 3 different things at one time. So forgive me for not really, the chat, but I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, whatever you watching from. If it's Rumble, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, whatever you watching us from, we really, really appreciate you. What's up, Jonathan Davis? What's going on? How you doing? Everybody's in the building. Appreciate y'all for joining. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot going on. I'm doing 3 things at one time, really 4. So just bear with me. I'm not saying that much, but because I'm really waiting on SpaceX to launch. That's what I'm really waiting on. I'm waiting on it to hit this stock market. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm waiting on. So bear with me as we continue.
Echoing that, with President Trump's leadership, this is another promise made, promise kept by President Trump, that he was going to roll back these job-killing, community-killing, industry-killing jobs. He's done that last year with executive orders, doing it today with his proclamation. So I want to say thank you to President Trump. I want to say thank you to my great friend, Secretary Lutnick in Commerce. We have dual responsibilities across Commerce and Interior related to fish. And of course, with our partners in the Pacific, because American Samoa, Guam, the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands, we've got the Congresswoman here from Northern Marianas Islands. These are all American citizens. As Howard said, this is U.S. territorial waters, and they were closed to us and open to others. And that makes no sense. We've reversed that around, and so again, as you see around us.
Hey, what's up, ATM Tim? What's going on, bro?
The jobs that are created in this industry are often 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation family businesses. And these folks not only risk their lives, they risk their own personal capital to help feed America. They're the farmers of the sea. Just like President Trump's behind our farmers and ranchers, he's behind our fishermen. He's making sure that America is great. This brings back healthy food for our schools, our military, all the things that we're working on with Secretary Kennedy and with Pete Hegseth. So this is a win-win-win across the board. Again, thank you, President Trump. Thank you, Howard. Great day for America.
Thank you very much.
President, this is another example of America First, to be honest with you. Alaska provides 60% of the country's seafood. We're the state with halibut, salmon, king crab, you name it, comes from Alaska. Fishing in Alaska is one of the oldest industries in that entire state, employs thousands of individuals. Everyone has had fish from Alaska, we know that. But this is an example, again, of putting America first, workers first, and really this country first. And so on behalf of Alaska, on behalf of all fishermen and women, I want to thank you for what you're doing for this country and for the state of Alaska as well.
Governor, was this shutdown, I mean, it's just so hard to believe. So this was trauma for your industry, which is a big industry.
Well, your deregulation is what really helps Alaska. It helps the fishermen. The country doesn't need more regulation. We need less regulation. And that includes for this industry as well. And so from that perspective, and it's across the board. We could talk about oil and gas and so forth, but this is about fish. But your deregulation approach is really what we need. We don't need more cost, and as you said, we probably don't need electric boats either. We need to focus on getting seafood to Americans, putting people to work, and this is exactly what this does. So I just want to thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Good job.
Mr. President.
We got to hear from a couple of fishermen.
Mr. President, I'm third generation. These two are some of our kids, as well as fourth. Pacific Seafood immigrated, my grandfather immigrated into this country and started his first fish market in 1941. From there, we now are one of the largest family vertically integrated seafood companies in North America. It was an American dream. And I'm honored to have been.
Where are you from?
Portland, Oregon, and now Arizona.
Liberal.
Oh.
It's not a liberal.
Trust me.
It's probably more people than you think as Republicans, conservatives.
If we could count the votes.
Yeah, if
that's
you
another
could count
issue.
the votes properly,
Yeah. But where we are is the act, the proclamation today, and the executive order last year and prior to this is really going to help us. We have 3,000 families that work with us and 715 fishing families, lower 48 in Oregon, Washington, California, and Alaska that depend on what we catch, what we process, and what we grow and sell is the healthiest protein on the planet. And you're giving us access to these family wage jobs in these coastal communities where we're usually the number one or number two employer in those cities and counties and coastal communities we are in. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of that 3,000 employees and 715 fishermen. Thank you, Mr. President. Secretaries, thank you, and everybody that supports this industry.
So did you ever see this happening when they destroyed your whole life and your family and your business, everything else? Did you ever think that somebody would come along and save it?
I'm going to just be really clear. There's never been a president to do this.
Thank you very much. Very much. It's very nice.
I just want to say, Mr. President, that, my father always said, always give credit where credit is due. And I'm here representing the working man, the fisherman. I am one myself, as you know. And, I spent a couple of months with you on The Apprentice, and I saw your work ethic there. And I got to tell you, I understand that I can't fathom how you can do all this and how you can get the time to do what you do and representing us and helping the fishermen the way you've done. It's mind-boggling to me because I know you got your hands full, but putting us on that pedestal and backing up our industry the way you have, it's just phenomenal. And I got to say, I've been fishing since I was 12 years old. I've never been fired in my life until I spent a couple of months with this man. And, and it was very humbling, to say the least.
You did a great job.
And I tell you what, when I think about it, I was a better captain after that because I was very nice to my crew. I was very humbled when I was fired. And anyway, I just want to say, as for you, this is a crew member's cap. You can take that. And you're one of us now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've done more for
first nation in the fishing space. We're farmers of the sea. We produce this great healthy protein. I'm from North Carolina.
I'm gonna come back over here, Chad. Right now, they're talking to Chevron CEO, and I gotta pay attention to this. So hold on a second, Chad. They're talking to Chevron CEO right now, and so I gotta hear this part.
View the market dynamics right now. What actually is coming out of the Gulf?
Yeah, our view would be it's probably not quite that much. There are ships that have been transiting out, typically with transponders off, typically at night, and with some support from the U.S. military, and that has helped ease fundamentals in physical markets, and so we've seen price action that has been a little bit, I think, different than people expected. But what has been true through it all, and we can talk about it a little bit more if you'd like, is the market's been pretty incredible in terms of how it's adjusted, both on the supply and the demand side, to buy time and kind of address the risks that exist.
What is the driving force behind that? Because most people thought we'd be higher than $150 a barrel.
Yeah, well. Early on,
just not joining the chat. We waiting
on expectations and narratives, and early on there was a lot of fear that prices wouldn't go that high. So you saw global markets really take off. Physical markets followed, and then things have reversed. As the narrative has been, we're closer to the end than the beginning. There's a peace deal that's just around the corner, and physical markets obviously have had to deal with the realities of supply constraints. Early on, demand was strong, and in fact, you saw people buy further out, particularly Asian refiners that typically might buy a couple months in advance, covered themselves further. And so you actually had demand pulled forward at the same time as supply was shut off. And so that's where you saw differentials get very wide. But subsequently, you've got supply from SPRs, you've had supply from ships on the water that were sanctioned and were then allowed to unload. You've seen commercial inventories drawn down. You're seeing turnarounds and maintenance activities deferred in facilities that allow supply to keep flowing. Some movements now through the Straits. So there's been a supply response, as you would expect, and there's been a demand response. China had been buying a lot of oil for their SPR. That has come down. You've seen certain measures, primarily in Asian economies, to reduce energy intensity of their activities. You've seen some substitution into coal and other things that have taken some pressure off of markets. And so both supply and demand have responded, and I think the market has bought time. Now, the reality is inventories are a lot lower today, other than in China, where there still are very healthy inventories. Where whether you look at products or you look at crude oil, we've moved from comfortable inventories under normal times to what would be soon to be uncomfortable. And I think that's the real question, is how much longer can these measures kind of ameliorate the risk? And at some point, they may not be able to.
How much longer does Chevron think? Is it a July, August story? Or?
It's probably in that time frame. And that's a little later than I would have said if you asked me 4 or 6 weeks ago. And so particularly the reduced buying out of China is something that we didn't anticipate at the degree that we've seen now. And so I think that, along with now the fact that we are seeing some of these flows out through the Strait, probably have pushed that timeline out a little bit more. So I heard your earlier comment about the president's remarks about Labor Day, or kind of towards the end of the summer. The market may be able to kind of hold things together out into that time frame, but not forever.
How confident could an executive be that we are close to an agreement if the president has said it dozens of times since the conflict began at the end of February?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence would say you shouldn't fully believe that until you see the agreement signed and you see the actions begin to come into effect. Iran has a long history of being a kind of a patient and immovable negotiating force, and so this has been hard to call. And markets are hard to predict, wars are hard to predict. I think negotiations with adversaries like that or counterparties like that are also hard to predict. And so, and the market seems to be somewhat discounting these things. I mean, you mentioned yesterday, I think you used the term whiplash. The Carg Island statement didn't seem to send the market up the way it might have a month ago. and the we're close to a deal didn't seem to send the market down. I mean, it softened maybe a little bit, but I think the reactions to these things are less and less the more it gets repeated.
You had mentioned to me, John and Lisa, a few weeks ago when you joined the show that there are more clashes happening that not being reported. Are you still seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, there was, the U.S. hit a couple of ships just yesterday. That was not in the media initially. It's now out there that we're actually...
Our inventory is low. Whatever happened to drill, baby, drill.
Activity in both directions, and
China got more oil saved up than we do.
Provincially, we tend to have sources that we see things pretty quickly, but yeah, there's been during the ceasefire where the president said we're shooting at each other less, or I forget the exact term that he used. But
oil guys don't even believe
most people think of
that this deal is really what Donald Trump told.
Not zero.
I did ask someone about this though, and they said
he
it
just
is
said
pretty
it's
good
not
in
a
terms
deal
of
until it's
ceasefire
signed
for the region, for the neighborhood.
They don't even
I
believe.
guess, do you expect then, if the Strait of Hormuz
So
was
the
to
CEO
open,
of Chevron,
the U.S. Navy
is
would stay
inside
there
of
for
the
a longer period of time?
68%, Jack.
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of what their strategy would be. I think that's obviously based on the context of how they assess the risk, how they believe the Iranians are behaving in a manner that's consistent with whatever the agreement would call for, and the administration has used our forces around the world. We've seen it in a number of different places to enforce sanctions, to interdict ships at sea that are alleged to be in violation of sanctions, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see a military presence there for some time.
JP Morgan said that 5 million barrels a day is coming out. The secretary says 7. You think maybe it's more like 3. When do we get back to 20?
Understand?
Else's constellation is going to get this
economies to get very wide. So you saw paper
of the Strait of Hormuz, which would be headquartered there at one point.
Well, I don't think in the beginning it made a lot of sense. I mean, we made the first commercial discovery in California in Pico Canyon in 1879. And we built, our first refinery there in Northern California. Second refinery was built. The refinery is called El Segundo. It was the second refinery. There's now a city that's named after our refinery. So the state grew up around us more than us going to the state, and so we were part of the state's history. And for an awful long time, California was a big producer. It was one of the biggest producers in the world at one point. And we're an integral part of the economic story in California. Things have evolved, obviously, but it made sense for a long time. It doesn't make sense today.
Okay, so we're going to start with more so the news of the day and what's going on in Washington. I know you've been keeping up with the headlines from the president. Secretary Wright said 7 million barrels a day are getting out of the Strait of Hormuz, which would be a pretty big deal. How do you view the market dynamics right now? What actually is coming out of the Gulf?
Yeah, our view would be it's probably not quite that much. There are ships that have been transiting out, typically with transponders off, typically at night, and with some support from the U.S. military, and that has helped ease fundamentals in physical markets, and so we've seen price action that has been a little bit, I think, different than people expected. But what has been true through it all, and we can talk about it a little bit more if you'd like, is the market's been pretty incredible in terms of how it's adjusted, both on the supply and the demand side, to buy time and kind of address the risks that exist.
What is the driving force behind that? Because most people thought we'd be higher than $150 a barrel.
Yeah, well. Early on, you saw, the paper markets trade on expectations and narratives. And early on, there was a lot of fear that prices were going to go that high. So you saw paper markets really take off. Physical markets followed. And then things have reversed. As the narrative has been, we're closer to the end than the beginning. There's a peace deal that's just around the corner. And physical markets obviously have had to deal with the realities of supply constraints. Early on, demand was strong, and in fact, you saw people buy further out, particularly Asian refiners that typically might buy a couple months in advance covered themselves further. And so you actually had demand pulled forward at the same time as supply was shut off. And so that's where you saw differentials get very wide. But subsequently, you've got supply from SPRs, you've had supply from ships on the water that were sanctioned and were then allowed to unload. You've seen commercial inventories drawn down. You're seeing turnarounds and maintenance activities deferred in facilities that allow supply to keep flowing. Some movements now through the Straits. So there's been a supply response, as you would expect, and there's been a demand response. China had been buying a lot of oil for their SPR. That has come down. You've seen certain measures, primarily in Asian economies, to reduce energy intensity of their activities. You've seen some substitution into coal and other things that has taken some pressure off of markets. And so both supply and demand have responded, and I think the market has bought time. Now, the reality is inventories are a lot lower today, other than in China, where there still are very healthy inventories. Where whether you look at products or you look at crude oil, we've moved from comfortable inventories under normal times to what would be soon to be uncomfortable. And I think that's the real question, is how much longer can these measures kind of ameliorate the risk? And at some point, they may not be able to.
How much longer does Chevron think? Is it a July,
Yeah,
August story? Or?
It's probably in that time frame. And that's a little later than I would have said if you asked me 4 or 6 weeks ago. And so
I've been saying this for about a month. If this war and the straits are not open by 4th of July, I've been saying this for about a month. Now he's saying the same thing. Bro, the supply is getting lower and lower. This war, this deal has to be done, Chad. And if it's not done, I've been saying it for a month. Now he's saying it. So my timing and my thoughts were right on point. If this deal is not done by the 4th of July, right around July, it's going to get real ugly. Because, particularly in America, because like he just said it, our reserve on what we got saved up is really getting lower and lower as this war keeps dragging it out. So the deal has to be done really soon.
particularly the reduced buying out of China is something that we didn't anticipate at the degree that we've seen now. And so I think that, along with now the fact that we are seeing some of these flows out through the Strait, probably have pushed that timeline out a little bit more. So I heard your earlier comment about the president's remarks about Labor Day, or kind of towards the end of the summer. The market may be able to kind of hold things together out into that time frame, but not forever.
How confident could an executive be that we are close to an agreement if the president has said it dozens of times since the conflict began at the end of February?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence would say you shouldn't fully believe that until you see the agreement signed and you see the...
Heard that? The evidence saying, because y'all know Donald Trump say one thing and then he say another thing. He basically saying that. Well, Donald Trump say one thing and then some always happen. We're not going to say it's a deal done till we see it on paper. Let me rewind that. He's basically saying the same thing that the chat. Shout out to the 22 people that voted. He's in the know. He's in the 73%, just like the rest of us.
Very healthy inventories. Whether you look at products or you look at crude oil, we've moved from comfortable inventories under normal times to what would be soon to be uncomfortable. And I think that's the real question, is how much longer can these measures kind of ameliorate the risk? And at some point, they may not be able to.
How much longer does Chevron think? Is it a July, August story? Or?
It's probably in that time frame.
How much longer we got before it really gets real? How long do we have before it really gets real? And these gas prices and these oil prices really go up. The only good news about all of this is that the markets didn't tank. Oil prices didn't go up to, say, $250 a barrel. Gas prices didn't shoot. Well, in my area, it's right around $3.50 right now. Gas prices didn't shoot up to $7. That's basically what they're saying, that they anticipated the markets to really drop. They anticipated oil prices going to $2.50 a barrel, and it did not happen. That's the only good news about all of this, is that oil prices didn't go up to $250. But right now, our back is against the wall, really. Our back is starting to go against the wall. July at the latest. That's right. Our back is going against the wall. A deal has to be made. It's real crucial right now. The chess game is real crucial. Just like the NBA Finals, how close the game was the other night. That's how it is. We getting down to crunch time. We getting down to crunch time. It's the fourth quarter, and it's the fourth quarter, and the other team has the ball inside of the red zone. That's how close it is right now. We are at the goal line with our back against the wall. We're trying to keep the other team from scoring. It's the fourth quarter, and Iran has the ball at the 20-yard line inside the red zone trying to score. That's where we at right now. So hopefully there's a deal. But the thing about the deal, what's really inside of the deal? That's what I can't wait to see. What's really inside the deal?
And that's a little later than I would have said if you asked me 4 or 6 weeks ago. And so particularly the reduced buying out of China is something that we didn't anticipate at the degree that we've seen now. And so I think that, along with now the fact that we are seeing some of these flows out through the Strait, probably have pushed that timeline out a little bit more. So I heard your earlier comment about the president's remarks about Labor Day, or kind of towards the end of the summer. The market may be able to kind of hold things together out into that time frame, but not forever.
How confident could an executive be that we are close to an agreement if the president has said it dozens of times since the conflict began at the end of February?
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence would say you shouldn't fully believe that until you see the agreement signed and you see the actions begin to come into effect. Iran has a long history of being a kind of a patient and immovable negotiating force, and so this has been hard to call, and markets are hard to predict, wars are hard to predict. I think negotiations with adversaries like that or counterparties like that are also hard to predict, and so and the market seems to be somewhat discounting these things. I mean, you mentioned yesterday, I think you used the term whiplash. The Karg Island statement didn't seem to send the market up the way it might have a month ago, and the we're close to a deal didn't seem to send the market down. I mean, softened maybe a little bit, but I think the reactions to these things are less and less the more it gets repeated.
You had mentioned to me, John and Lisa, a few weeks ago when you joined the show that there are more not being reported. Are you still seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, there was, the U.S. hit a couple of ships just yesterday. That was not in the media initially. It's now out there. There were actually 3 fatalities on one of the vessels. And so there has been activity in both directions, and it usually gets out eventually. We tend to have sources that we see things pretty quickly, but yeah, there's been during the ceasefire where the president said we're shooting at each other less, or I forget the exact term that he used, but it's not a true ceasefire the way I think most people would think of a ceasefire. It's just less shooting.
Right.
Not zero.
I did ask someone about this though, and they said it is pretty good in terms of ceasefire for the region, for the neighborhood. I guess, do you expect then, if the Strait of Hormuz was to open, that the U.S. Navy would stay there for a longer period of time?
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of what their strategy would be.
All
I think
right,
that's
big news,
obviously
big news.
based on
SpaceX has opened. SpaceX is open, chat. 11 o'clock, right around 11. SpaceX is now live. SpaceX is now live. Let's watch it, chat. SpaceX is now live. If you have not seen your first, if this is your first stock market, watching a company go live on the stock market for the first time, this what it looks like. A whole lot of buying, a whole lot of selling. They opened it up at 150. Now look, it's 168. Let's check it out, chat. Let's watch it. We're going to stay right here. Let's see what it's going to do. It opened up at 150. A lot of volume is coming in. A lot of people are buying. Let's check it out. It's amazing to watch, guys. Let's see what the overall stock market is doing. The overall stock market is selling off. Okay, let's go back to SpaceX. This is an amazing thing to watch. Opening price was 150. Now it's up to 168. Let's see what Tesla is doing. Selling off. Nvidia, selling off. So we're going to pay attention to the overall stock market, mostly SpaceX and Tesla. Bill, let me ask you a question. Do you have a retirement account? You have a regular 9-to-5 job, right? Do you have a retirement account? Bill. Are you invested in your company's 401k plan? Most people that talk like that are not invested in the company's 401k plan. Let's see what's going to happen. I understand where y'all coming from, you know. Most people don't have a retirement account. Most people don't have a retirement account. 50% of Americans don't have a retirement account. Sad but true. Hey, what's up, Molly? What's up? How you doing? Since Trump came in, my stock has been hitting rock bottom. I don't see how, bro. Because look, how it's been hitting rock bottom. Let's look at this. How? This is the overall stock market, the S&P 500. How is your stock down since Trump came in office? Let's look. Trump came in office, unless you haven't been dollar cost averaging in, that's the only way. Look, Trump came in office right here. February, right here. Trump came in office, right here. Well, I'm gonna put it right here, right around this area right here. That's when Trump came in office. Look where we at right now, 760. So, I mean, that what you said is not true. You said since Trump came in office, your stocks are down. How? You talking about Trump stocks? I'm not talking about Trump stocks. I'm talking about the overall stock market, bro. I don't invest in Trump stocks. I'm talking about the overall stock market. I'm talking about the S&P 500, bro. I'm talking about Tesla, Amazon, Google, which we own right now, Apple, which you probably got an Apple phone. I'm talking about AMD, Nvidia. I'm talking about companies that really matter. I'm not talking about Trump stocks. I'm not talking about that. But since you brought it up, let's go look. Let's go look at it. Here it go right here. I'm not talking about this, bro. I'm not talking about Truth Social. It's a terrible company. Everybody knows that, bro. Why would you be investing in Truth Social? Nobody knows about it, bro. It ain't like Facebook. It ain't like Twitter. Why would you invest long term in this? Like nobody knows, nobody uses Truth Social. Like, I'm looking at it right now. Look, this is Truth Social right here. This is Truth Social. Why would you invest in this? Why would you invest in this long term, bro? It's not a profitable company. It's not. But I'm gonna get off that. I'm gonna go to what really matters. This is what really matters. Right here. Let me stay over here. But yeah, when you invested into the stock market, bro, you got to invest in the companies that you already know, like, and trust. Like the companies that we use every single day. Apple, Google, Amazon as examples. Nvidia, etc., etc., etc. You got to know what you're investing in, bro. You can't invest into a company just because of a name. Like, that don't make any sense. You got to know if the company is profitable or not. You got to know you got to educate yourself about these companies. I'm not going to invest in Truth Social and I know that it's not profitable. Like some you gotta think about certain things, bro. You gotta think about it. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Chevron, Exxon, like high quality companies. Walmart, you know, high quality companies. The S&P 500, the overall stock market, VOO, quality ETFs. Not nothing like no True Social. That's like investing in GameStop and AMC. That's what that's like. Why would I hold a long-term position in GameStop? Like, nobody uses GameStop anymore, bro. Like, it don't make any sense. Okay, let's get back over here to SpaceX. Here we go. We did pull all the way back down to, what is that, 155. Pulled all the way back down to 155. Let's see. Let me go back over here. SpaceX. Appreciate everybody that's watching. If you never seen a company IPO, this is what it looks like. A whole lot of up and down, a lot of volume. This is what it looks like. I'm on some bullshit. Don't get emotional, bro. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm just telling you the facts, bro. When it comes to investing, you know, you got to know what you're doing, bro. You got to know what you're doing. And you have a better chance of coming out ahead if you invest in the overall stock market. As you can see right now, how am I bullshit when I'm showing you what's going on? This is the overall stock market right here. Like, look, this is the overall stock market. The S&P 500 is 5 of the top companies. And a majority of these companies, we spend our money with every single day. You know, so an ETF is one of the best things that you can invest in long term. And that's not my, that's my theory. That's just the facts. That's just anybody that knows about investing will tell you that. Like, so don't get upset, bro. I'm just telling you the facts. See, that's what's wrong with a lot of us. We get emotional and we get in our feelings. You know what I'm saying? You can't get emotional in your feelings when somebody giving you some game and telling you how it goes. You can't get emotional, bro. If you don't know, you don't know. You know? It's people, 3798. It's people that come on here that knows more than me. I'm not the one to claim that I know it all, bro. It's people that come on here and give us stock picks. Evidently, you knew to the channel. A lot of people have came on here and gave us great investment advice and tips. So you don't know what you're talking about, man. You don't. Like, for instance, let me go to one right now. Let me see. Where's it at? Where it's at? Well, it's not on this, it's not in this one. Somebody came on here like about a year ago and gave us a great investment stock. Where it's at? I don't think it's on this one. Let me try to see if I can. I think it's Litcoin. Let me try to find it. Somebody came on here and gave us a great, well, I can't find it right now, gave us a great company. And we did our research on it and we pulled the trigger. So a lot of different people come on here, bro. A lot of good investors come on here. So y'all got to stop being so negative. You know what I'm saying? You got to stop being so negative, bro. It's not beneficial to be that negative. It's not. Some people have never seen a company's IPO, what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? So just chill out, bro. Just chill out. Just chill out. The thing is, will SpaceX get above this 168.75? That's the thing. Will it get above the 168.75? That's what I'm trying to check out, trying to see right now. That's what we're trying to see right now, Chad. Can SpaceX get above this red line? As we on lunchtime right now. It's lunchtime. So we're trying to see if SpaceX can get above the 168.75. If you're just not joining the chat, SpaceX, Elon Musk, company that's been private all this time, finally went public. And the opening price was 150. It went all the way up to 168.75. Then it came all the way back down to VWAP, which is 156.50. And we're trying to do a V shape to make the move back on up above 168.75. This is amazing to watch, chat. This is amazing to watch. I like watching these new companies go public. That's what I like watching. In my opinion, I think we're gonna go above the 168.75. In my opinion. SPCX. Let's see. Look at this V-shaped recovery on SpaceX. We're gonna break above that 168.75. Let's see. Let's see if we can get above the 168.75. We're going to see. If you're just not joining, SpaceX been live probably about, let's see, about 30 minutes. Yeah, around 30 minutes. If you're wondering, these are 1 minute candles. Each one of these candles are 1 minute. I'm gonna put it on 2 minutes now. I'm gonna leave it on 2 minute candles. Each one of these candles here are 2 minutes. SpaceX so far is up 22% on the day. Shout out to Elon Musk. Shout out to Elon Musk. Dang, bro. Okay. Deal. Okay. Right. SpaceX. Here. Market. Right. Oh, look at that. Look at my uptrend line. Will it bounce off my uptrend line? That's what we're looking at right now, Chad. Stephen Kelly Belly. This story is like a 5-cent lottery ticket scratcher. If you say so. Let's check out Tesla. Tesla is trying to recover off the low of 387.24. Let's get back over here. If you don't know, SpaceX just went live, just went public on the stock market. That's what we watching right here. Elon Musk company, SpaceX. But see, there is also a rumor that SpaceX and Tesla supposed to be merging together. That's just a rumor, which would be great if both of those companies come together and merge as one. That would be great. I'm gonna stay on a little bit longer, chat, maybe about another 15 minutes. I want to see if it's going to get above the 168.75, but volume is dying down. The volume is dying down right now, because we are in lunch. This is lunchtime, basically. But if you can see these bars at the bottom, less people are buying and selling at this time. Let's see. Let me see how long we've been live. Shout out to everybody that's checking us out. Shout out to everybody on Rumble, Twitch, Kick, YouTube. If you was wondering what a IPO, when a company first goes public, this is basically what it looks like. So we got a lot of volume in the beginning, and it shot up from 150 to 168. Now it's, you know, it's playing with the uptrend line, trying to get back above the 168.75, which is the high of the day. So this beginning right here, with people buying in and selling on like a day trade. That's basically what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to get me a day trade in. But I might be a little bit too late because I was talking too much. That's what I was doing, running my mouth and talking too much. But as far as a long term, you know, like a long term, yeah, I will be investing long term in SpaceX, but I'm going to wait on that. I'm going to wait. Hopefully, it'll come back. It'll come down to about 100 a share. Then I'll start dollar cost averaging in at that time. Once it settles down, because right now there's a lot of traders, like day traders, that are, you know, trying to make some money right now. So I'm gonna wait till it cool off. That's what I like to do on these new IPOs when these companies go public, and I like them, like a SpaceX, like a Tesla, you know, high quality companies. I like to wait till it cools down. You know, maybe a couple of weeks from now, a month from now, then I start dollar cost averaging in for a long term, so that I, you know, would hold for retirement. And just buy some ever so often. Buy 2 here, 3 there, 4 here, 3 there, like that. And stockpile the shares for long-term growth. As we hovered around that uptrend line. So that's what we got going on right now. SpaceX just went public. Yeah, it done slowed all the way down now, chat. As of right now, it's real slow. You can see it's not really moving. So I'm gonna come from over here right now, and let's see what's going on over here.
Trading gets going here, but how should we consider the way in which the valuation for this company was set? We were just listening to Jim Chanos talking about how skeptical he is of valuing a market cap at something 110 times revenue for a company that isn't profitable.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating in that, you know, this is also a company that, you know, put out incredible numbers in their S1 about, you know, total addressable markets and talking about space-based economy. You know, to hear Musk talk about the potential for this company and to hear people like Jared Isaacman, the head of NASA, he gave an interview very recently about this notion that the space economy has been something that's been sort of highly speculated about, hyped up as something massive, and yet the follow-through has been very minimal. I will say, in defense of Musk and SpaceX, with the exception of Starlink, there's been very little in the way of progress toward making any money in space. We have seen SpaceX make progress where others haven't, but I think where you really run into trouble looking at this company is actually the AI portion, and the fact that that was just such a very recent addition to the SpaceX story maybe makes things kind of muddy and more complicated than they might have otherwise been had this just been a space company with a solid satellite business.
Well, a late addition, yes, but one that already does have some commitments tied to it. It seems we all saw the news of Google's contract with SpaceX that's going to be, nearly $1 billion per month, assuming that SpaceX can actually deliver on the computing power that has been promised. How far do we have to go to SpaceX actually realizing these capabilities, actually having them to offer customers, not just like Google, but Anthropic is a big customer too, right?
Yeah, the two of them in sort of rapid fire fashion, reach these deals in the lead up to the IPO, and surely that's helping sort of buoy sentiment. But if we think about Musk's ambitions to not just be a sort of infrastructure partner to the likes of Google and Anthropic, and actually getting in the game itself, and building a competitive chatbot and AI capabilities that can be monetized, that's where we've seen real failures on Musk's part, and he's been pretty open about that actually on X. This notion that they sort of started XAI all wrong and are kind of starting over. It was really unusual and very like him that he would be so sort of candid about that, and yet maybe raises some questions about just how quickly this will be a company that's a major player and actually things beyond partnering with companies that have had success like Anthropic.
Well, and you've just made the point, Craig, about XAI getting rolled in to SpaceX. So would you be surprised if we see Tesla rolled in to this larger company too?
Just going.
I just was talking about that.
This rolling up of Musk's companies, it does feel like that's also something that people quite close to Musk have not shied away about. Speaking to. This notion that that would be not even just a sort of open secret, but just something that people are very comfortable theorizing about, tells me that that it does feel like it's likely. I also think it's interesting in that we've heard Musk say over and over again that he wishes he had more control over Tesla. One of the ways to sort of address the fact that he's not particularly comfortable with his command of that company would be to combine these, because that is an aspect of SpaceX's structure that is quite different, where he has a special class of stock that Tesla didn't have when it went public. If they were to combine, they would sort of rationalize that and give him the ability of stock that protects him from any activism or challenges to his sort of rule of the company.
All right, Bloomberg's Craig Trudell, thank you so much. SpaceX right now trading at $164 a share. We're up nearly 22% from that $135 IPO price. Quite the debut we are seeing. One of the world's largest companies by market cap at this point after a record-setting $75 billion IPO. And of course, that is some of the big news of the moment, but I also want to return to the breaking news we brought you just moments ago pertaining to a potential memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran, as Pakistan, the mediator between these two parties, says that an agreed-upon text of a peace deal has indeed been reached. So for more, we turn to Bloomberg Washington correspondent Tyler Kendall, who is here with me in our D.C. studio. So Tyler, throughout this conflict and its attempt to find resolution, we consistently do not hear the same things from all of the parties. The U.S. and President Trump will say one thing, Iran says something different. In this instance, do we actually get the sense that everyone might be on the same page this time?
It depends which parts we're talking about. This is positive momentum in the right direction because now we actually have all three sides saying that progress has been made. You have Pakistan coming out saying that a final agreed upon text has been reached. You had Iran's foreign minister here saying that they've never been closer towards peace. And then, of course, you have the White House, which has long maintained that they are getting closer to a deal. The issue is we're getting conflicting reports about what's actually in the memorandum of understanding. A senior administration official earlier today confirmed to us that there are at least 5 points that we know of. The first is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which both sides have said that they are working towards. The question here becomes, though, is that Iranian state media earlier today did report that it would reopen, but said that would only happen after the U.S. lifts its naval blockade. We know that the U.S. would like to keep that leverage in place until the Strait of Hormuz reopens. And Iran also seemed to suggest that they would like to maintain some degree of control over the strait, which would not probably meet the U.S.'s definition of freedom of navigation. So that's perhaps one of the biggest sticking points in front of us. The others come from the senior administration official saying that maybe we could get some announcement around what potential curbs on Iran's nuclear program would actually look like, including the removal of Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, and that Iran would dismantle, was the word, its nuclear program. What does that really look like in practice? Our understanding has been that those firmer details would come at a later date, that this would be a phased proposal. So there's going to be maybe some questions there. There's so much more that we could go through here, but financial relief, Iran has said financial relief needs to come first. Senior administration official telling us today financial relief is only coming after Iran meets its targets for the deal. That includes unfreezing the assets, at least half of them, oil sanctions. That's another disconnect. And then lastly, the U.S. says that Iran will end its support of proxy militia groups. Iranian state media today said the ceasefire needs to extend to Lebanon, which would seem to infer that they are still backing, of course, the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah and Israel's front against them.
All right, Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall, great reporting. Thank you so much. And of course, this is all coloring the G7 summit to be held in France next week. President Trump is planning to attend. Tyler will also be there covering it for us here on Bloomberg, and we're looking forward to that coverage very much. Of course, Tyler owns Washington coverage. Ed Ludlow owns tech and space coverage as the co-host of Bloomberg Tech, and he's here with us now on this debut day for SpaceX. Ed, I feel like this is your Super Bowl. It probably is most people in financial markets Super Bowl, as we're setting records here, not just in terms of IPO, but in the size of this debut. Talk to me about the demand here, as we had questions as to whether or not this price was set correctly, given the unusual lack of price discovery that happened, whether or not 555 million shares being issued was going to be met with adequate demand. Are we seeing evidence that perhaps the appetite was even more robust than initially thought?
Well, it was massively oversubscribed on the institutional side, which accounted for 80% of the offering, and on the retail side as well, which was about 20%. And we can get into like more of the specifics of how that sliced and diced. It's trading right now 167.50, 24% above the IPO price of 135. What we reported over the last 5 days is that it has been Elon Musk himself, along with Brett Johnson, the CFO, and Gwynne Shotwell, the president, that really controlled and dictated the terms, literally, as opposed to like the bankers. Bankers have a lot of influence in IPO processes, but this time, part of the rationale, as it was explained.
And look, if you're watching, SpaceX about to break the 168.75. SpaceX is about to break the 168.75. It's going to be, if it breaks that, watch this big green candle, which I pretty much know it's going to break the one. It's going to go over this red line. This 168.75 is going to break it. Let me thicken it out. The line. There. That line right there. Once it breaks this 168.75, watch this green candle. It's going to break it too. It's going to be hard to break it, But it's going to break that 168.75. I'm going to come back once it breaks it. Please.
And 26.5 of that is what they are calling in an umbrella or bucket of enterprise AI. But in the near term, all of that is predicated on them being able to get Starship, which is on paper the most powerful rocket and launch system humankind's ever developed, to work regularly and reusably. They have done 12 test flights. They are closer, in the coming weeks to doing a 13th test flight, but they've never landed or both parts of it, the booster and the spacecraft on top, back on Earth. They have to do that if they are able to put into orbit satellites that are data centers. And that is kind of the middle step that gets them to that distant future where humans are living on Mars, and they're able to generate most of their revenues and income from AI. It's not straightforward, and that has been a part of like how much you place a value of 2030 to 2050, not right now on historic IPO Friday.
Well, and it's also just so interesting to consider
2 hours, not bad.
Circular nature of this, if you will, because we're talking about what SpaceX will need to do to deliver for customers like Anthropic, which at least in some parts of the wider SpaceX business here, if you're considering Grok, which obviously is no plot, there is still competition there. Just speak to that, Ed, and how all of this is setting the stage for Anthropic and also OpenAI's ultimate public domain that we're expecting later this year.
So state of play is that Anthropic has filed confidentially with the SEC for IPO, and so has OpenAI. SpaceX, through its XAI arm, SpaceX owns XAI, it's a subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary of SpaceX, did a deal with Anthropic where Anthropic pays SpaceX more than $1 billion a month to rent compute capacity from a data center, a specific data center that it built in Tennessee. On paper, if you read the prospectus and the vision that we just outlined where SpaceX makes most of its money from selling AI software, that would make them on paper a complete rival and competitor to Anthropic. But this is what's so interesting. A lot of phone calls in the last 5 days from existing SpaceX investors saying it's so important to talk about how they've done this. They have data center capacity that was available. XAI and SpaceX, the parent, are very good at building data centers quickly and running them, operating them efficiently on a very competitive dollar per token basis. So why not rent it out and make money? And that's the near-term story that will dictate right now the stock performance and the valuation, because the rest of it is so far away in another galaxy, etc.
We did pick up 9 shares of
Excellent pun, and that's of course as we consider the performance as a public company. But Ed, you were just talking about speaking to existing SpaceX investors. This is obviously not a new company.
This is not
more than 2 decades old. It's existed in private markets for some time, and there was a long time in which Elon Musk was saying we can just stay reliant on private capital. Walk us through that evolution and whether or not this is going to be a new model going forward as we consider more robust private markets.
Yeah, I think 2002 SpaceX was seeded of about $27 million, and the goal was to make a rocket booster land back on Earth and be reusable. And now clearly, as we've just discussed, the story has really changed. In 2010, when Tesla went public, the public company that Elon Musk is also CEO of, SpaceX had $1 billion valuation, and rapidly, kind of 2023 to 2025 in the private markets, its valuation kept growing because it just dominated this business of launching payload to orbit. And then Starlink, which is a internet service, but it's powered by a constellation of satellites around planet Earth, has very quickly become cash flow positive, a cash generator. So like you'll see all the Bloomberg stories and read the prospectus and say like how unprofitable SpaceX is and how distant it is. But in its connectivity business, actually it's a cash generating part of the business. And so, it's just a crazy story. We don't have, you could do an entire 24 hours on Bloomberg Television and Radio to explain the history of it. But again, the point of the rocket business is that next gen rocket, it needs to work. for all that other intergalactic out of this world stuff to come true.
Well, I feel like Ed probably is going to end up spending 24 hours on Bloomberg television and radio today. You're working hard. Thank you so much, Bloomberg Tech co-host Ed Ludlow. We appreciate it. I would just point out, as we consider the demand for SpaceX shares that appears to be out there, Robinhood says it saw record-breaking traffic today, blaming that for some latency and intermittent issues customers were experiencing, though they said the systems have recovered.
See, that's why I don't like Robinhood like that, Chad.
Clearly, retail is a massive factor in this.
See, that's why I don't like Robinhood like that. You heard what she just said. Robinhood had problems. Let me rewind that. Bro.
Operating them efficiently on a very competitive dollar per token basis. So why not rent it out and make money? And that's the near-term story that will dictate
Robinhood
right
had
now the stock performance and the valuation, because you know the rest of it is so far away in another galaxy, etc.
Excellent pun. And that's, of course, as we consider the performance as a public company. But Ed, you were just talking about speaking to existing SpaceX investors. This is obviously not a new company. It's more than 2 decades old. It's existed in private markets for some time. And there was a long time in which Elon Musk was saying we can just stay reliant on private capital. Walk us through that evolution and whether or not this is going to be a new model going forward as we consider more robust private markets.
Yeah, I think, 2002 SpaceX was seeded of about $27 million. And the goal was to make a rocket booster land back on Earth and be reusable. And now, clearly, as we've just discussed, the story's really changed. In 2010, when Tesla went public, the public company that Elon Musk is also CEO of, SpaceX, had $1 billion valuation, and rapidly, kind of 2023 to 2025 in the private markets, its valuation kept growing because it just dominated this business of launching payload to orbit. And then Starlink, which is a internet service, but it's powered by a constellation of satellites around planet Earth, has very quickly become cash flow positive, a cash generator. So like you'll see all the Bloomberg stories and read the prospectus and say like how unprofitable SpaceX is and how distant it is. But in its connectivity business, actually it's a cash generating part of the business. And so, it's just a crazy story. We don't have, you could do an entire 24 hours on Bloomberg Television and Radio to explain the history of it. But again, the point of the rocket business is that next gen rocket, it needs to work for all that other intergalactic out of this world stuff to come true.
Well, I feel like Ed probably is going to end up spending 24 hours on Bloomberg Television and radio today. You're working hard. Thank you so much, Bloomberg Tech co-host Ed Ludlow. We appreciate it. I would just point out, as we consider the demand for SpaceX shares that appears to be out there, Robinhood says it saw record-breaking traffic today, blaming that for some latency and intermittent issues customers were experiencing, though they said the systems have recovered and their teams are monitoring it closely.
Robinhood had problems.
Retail is a massive factor in this debut. And of course, this debut is now a massive factor in financial markets. So let's get a check on where we're trading overall as SpaceX trades at just about $168 a share. Charlie Pellet is keeping watch from New York. Hey, Charlie.
Hi, thank you very much, Kaylee. Indeed, SpaceX right now up by 24.3%. We've got two major stories that we're following for you, the SpaceX IPO, and of course, diplomatic efforts in the Middle East. Hopes for a breakthrough are lifting.
There we go. That's did I say it, Chad? Once SpaceX broke that 168.75. Look, there you go. Come that green, them green candles gonna come. SpaceX broke that 168.75. $169.50. There you go. Didn't I tell y'all once it broke this red line what was going to happen? And what's the thing about it, if people are on their lunch break, we got 9 shares, and we in 166.72. 166.72. Now we at 170 a share. All right. Oh, look at that jump. $171. Starting to get volume coming in now, Chad. We're starting to get volume. We got a whole lot of volume to the 171. Then it pulled back to 160, back to 170. But like I said, once we got above this red line, we're gonna see a lot of red. I mean, a lot of green. And that's what happened. Once we cross that high today, a lot of buyers are coming in. Nothing but green candles. Here we go. There you go, Chad. Whoa. There you go. Whoa, whoa. See? Get above 172. There you go. There you go, Chad. Told you. Soon as it got above this red, if you was on the chat, as soon as it got above this red line, which is resistance, boom, I said it's gonna be number green candles. And that's exactly what happened. 179, we're about to get above 173. Look at that sell-off. Wow. Back down to the green line, which is, I got to change this to green. Let's see what's going to happen. We should bounce off of this. Change that to green. Make this. Hold up. Went up under the support. Wow. Now we got to get above 173, 173.20. Now we're at now we got to get above 173.20, which that's going to happen. You're right at the support. Perfect bounce off the old high. He's going to the top, bro. Man. Watch when this break this 173.20. This top red line right here. Which is the high today. We're gonna break that easy. Look at Tesla. Tesla will rebound, Chad. Big V-shaped recovery on Tesla. Let's check out Tesla. Tesla got a ways to go, but Tesla got to get above this right here. Shit. Tesla got to get above this right here, above 400 again, Chad. Let's go back to SpaceX. Here we go, Chad, SpaceX. Woo! Here we go. About to break the 173. Hold up, let me pause that. Let me pause that. Because I got that on. Let me, God. 173.50. We're above resistance now, Chad. There you go. About to hit 174. Break the 174. Tesla is now green, Chad. Tesla is now green. Tesla is now green. Well, Tesla went back red, but we got to get way above 400 to stay green. Got to get way above 400 on Tesla to stay green. We need Tesla to stay green. See, the thing is, Chad, when you got two companies like this, that's too heavily, they got the same CEO. So Tesla, that's why I keep going back and forth from Tesla to SpaceX, because they're going to 8 times out of 10, they're basically going to move the same way. That's why I keep going back and forth. They moving basically the same as of right now, which is pretty cool to see. But of course, we're going to get pullbacks here and there, because we got the day traders. We got the traders that are coming in, buying, and then selling within seconds, minutes. So it's going to be pullbacks. That's just how it works. What's so great about SpaceX is that it's not a new company. You know what I'm saying? It's not new. SpaceX, I think, is like 20-something years old. So it's not a new company. So that's great. It's a great company. But now since it's public, we'll be able to get a hold of the earnings reports and things of that nature, which we probably can find out that information out right now, but I haven't looked at the financial side of SpaceX as of right now. But since it's public, you know, that information has to be released to the public. So, but SpaceX, man, you can't, you know, in my opinion, me personally, you can't, that's a great company for long-term investing. I just wanted to come back down to about 100. You know what I'm saying? Around that price. And from the looks of it, usually when these IPOs and these companies go public, people that hold shares when it was private, usually they sell. You know, they sell their shares. They take profits once it goes public. But it seems like, you know, it seemed like it was some selling, but a lot of people are still holding. So that's great news. Because, you know, a lot of people if you own a company private and then it goes public, automatically your net worth jumps, you know, a lot. So as an example, Elon Musk, because they owned private shares, with this company going public, once they get the final numbers out, Elon Musk is probably going to pass trillionaire status with this activity today, in my opinion. Look, boom, 175, bro. Let's go, bro. Shout out to everybody that pulled the trigger at $150. Shout out to everybody that pulled the trigger at $160. Shout out to everybody that was invested in this company private. Shout out to everybody, man. A lot of people got wealthy today, right now, within this 1 hour. This company has been public 1 hour. That's it. And it's up 30% in 1 hour. $175, there we go. $175. Wow. And Tesla, look at Tesla, chat. I said Tesla got to get above the 400 and stay there. Well, just by me running my mouth, Tesla is now $402. Back to SpaceX. Let's see. Not NVIDIA. SpaceX, Tesla. Now we see a big green candle on Tesla. Let's look at SpaceX. Let's see what's going to happen. We're watching 1 minute candles. I'm gonna take it off the 1 minute. I think we're gonna put it. We're gonna go with 5 minute candles. That's the 5-minute candles right there. Each candle from the bottom to the top is a 5-minute candle. You won't see another candle until after 5 minutes. Tesla 40250. I don't know, Chad. I'm talking about, like, I think earlier before we went public, before we went live, I was thinking that we could probably get some 80 to 100. Right now, it might be a while if we ever see a $80 or $100 SpaceX share, because it's rolling. It's rolling. Because I was definitely thinking that a lot of people was going to take profits. That's what I actually thought. But I think majority of them took their profits right up in here. We see this red candle right here. I think a lot of people that was privately invested, they took their profits right up in here. That's what I think what happened. Yeah. As we get above about 176.50, and Tesla's still on the move. Tesla and SpaceX is taking over the stock market, overall stock market, Chad. Tesla and SpaceX. Once we get above 177, I'm going to end the stream. Because I've been on live a long time. I didn't intend to be on live this long. Almost 3 hours. But, you know, I wanted people to see, you know, a private company going public. A lot of people don't know what it looks like. But this is what it looks like. So that was the goal, you know, to get people to see what it looks like for a private company of this magnitude to go public. So SpaceX is now a publicly traded company. Now anybody can buy it. Anybody can buy SpaceX. Which is cool. Okay, we got some more selling going on. Of course, we're going to have that. So I got to move this line up here. And I'm going to take this green line and I'm going to put it right here to the previous old highs. I would usually put it here, but we are already there. So I got to put it back down to the previous old highs of right around 173. So we would either bounce off this old high or go down to the next old high. That's usually how it goes. But we're bouncing before we even get to this old high, which is cool. But I was going to stay until we get to 177, but I think I'm going to end it right here. We've been live what? Let's see. 2 hours and 45 minutes. So let's see. As you can see, we got some selling going on. Now we done broke the support line as of right now. Twelve 15. Think I'm ending right here. And power hour is at 2 o'clock. So I will be checking it out around 2 or 3 to see how we end on the close of today's market. So yeah, chat, everybody that came in, and I appreciate all the comments, everybody rocking with the channel. You know, I hope somebody seen something they never seen before. You know, if you never seen or witnessed a company going live, you know, this is what it looks like. You know, it's good to see a company of this magnitude, like a SpaceX, actually really go public after all these decades of being private. You know, so we're gonna keep a good eye on SpaceX. We're able to see the financial side. Now we'll be able to see the earnings report. You know, an earnings report is when every 3 months, when a company is publicly traded on the stock market, it has to show the public their earnings. Every 3 months, it's an earnings report. So we'll be able to see SpaceX earnings report, you know, every 3 months now. So matter of fact, let's see. Let me go on my phone and see if that date is already available. Let's see. Well, they haven't updated the next earnings report yet. So probably soon they'll release the next earnings report date, which earnings come up every 3 months. Let's see. So the next earnings season for these companies is going to be right around June, July, and August, somewhere up around there, depending on what company it is. So right around July, August, we'll be able to see SpaceX's first earnings report, publicly reported. So that'll be exciting to see what SpaceX's earnings report is. As we already know, SpaceX has all those government contracts. So as we can see now, We had to pull back. Now we back inside of the channel right above the support line, trying to get above 176 to hit 177. So like I say, there are always going to be pullbacks, right? This is 1, 2, small 3, small 4, small 5, kind of a big 6. We had 6 pullbacks so far, but we steadied from the 150. I got to change this. From the 150, we're steady moving up. Right there. So I think I want to stay chat till we get above 176 to 177. So bounce, 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 bounce. We on another bounce. I should have picked up some more shares on that bounce, but I ain't tripping. I think that's what I'm about to do right now. I'm about to pick up some more shares. Let's see. Because our average cost so far right now is 166.72. So I'm gonna add another 5. No, 6 even now because we already had 9 shares. I'm going to add another 6 shares right now to make it 15 shares. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now. I should have added it on this bounce, but I didn't. So I'm gonna add another 6 shares right now. Boom. Hold up. I gotta cancel that order. Because I didn't want to do a limit order. I want to do a market order. I want to get filled right now. 6. Everything straight. It'll make my dollar cost average go up just a little bit, but not really that much. Wait, just hold up. We're getting the dump right now. So good, I didn't get filled yet. So I'm finna pick up another 6 shares. Right now we got 9. I'm gonna pick up 6 to make it an even 15. It's gonna make the dollar cost average go up from 166.72. Hold up, let's wait. They selling off right now. Let's see. Bouncing right off the trend line. Yeah, I'm gonna take it right here. Go and get the 6 right there. Boom. Let's see what our average price went to now. Let's see. It went from 166.72 to 168.99. That's not bad. Basically, 169 is our average cost right now. And we got 15 shares. We got 15 shares. So we bought in on that bounce, 166.62. Where's that at? 166. 161. 166. So we got the first 9 shares at 166.72, which is right about right here. And then we got the other 6 at 172.40, which is right in here off this bounce. Right there. Cover my account information, but right there, if you can see it. This VWAP right here off 155, this right here, Chad, is the perfect bounce off the VWAP. 155, 155.50. Or is that 160? No, it's 160 now. But 155.50, perfect bounce down here. Now, this would have been the perfect position right here to pick it up. Right here. Right here, though, with Stock Sniper, why you didn't pick up none on the open? Because I was expecting a lot of people to sell right here. You know, the people that's buying, the people that own the company privately, I was expecting selling right here. So I wasn't going to pick up nothing right there. I was going to wait till it all settled. You know, I was going to wait till it all settled down, which I think we pretty much settled now. Whoever was going to sell after the open, once it went public, I think they was going to sell in the first 15 to 30 minutes. You know, we only been live an hour and a half. So I didn't want to fool with it up in here. But right now, I think I'm in a good position. And I still could pick up more if it goes down. So, but right now 169 is our buy-in price right now. We got 15 shares at roughly $169. The first buy-in was 9 shares at 166. Then we just picked up another 6 shares at 172. So right now we got 15 shares. We up 2 points. We up 2 points, which is we up 2% right now. So I think we're in a decent spot. We're at a decent spot. So I'm going to move this support line down here. right around at the buy-in spot. 169, that's the average right there. Yeah, 169. So let me move it down a little bit further. I'm gonna go all the way down to the buy-in, to the average. Or even 169. Right there. 169. So we basically in the channel. 169 to 176.75. We're basically in the channel right now, which is good. I like the way the chart is looking. I really do. We're steady going up. You know what I'm saying? Bounce, bounce, bounce. And now we're in the channel trying to get above 176.80. Trying to get above that. Oh shit. I wanted to stay until we got over this resistance line, but I don't think I'm gonna stay that long, Chad. Good day, good day. SpaceX, Elon Musk company just went public. It was, if you didn't know, it was a privately owned company for over 20 years. So it's not like a company that, you know, that's been in existence for 5 years, 3 years, and going public. This is a credible company that's been private for over 20 years. So what a good day, what a good Friday. And then what's so cold about it, it's Friday. It is Friday. It is Friday, Chad. Today is Friday. Crazy, crazy work. I forgot all about the votes. Let's see, we got 33 votes. Do you believe Trump has an Iran deal? Most of us said no. I was in the 73% myself. But is everybody saying now that they really got a deal? So that's what the word is now, that they really, really, really got a deal. Now, what is inside of the deal, that's still to be heard and seen. But the word is that Trump and Iran has a deal, and that Iran has agreed to that deal. So hopefully this stuff will be over with, chat. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that this stuff will be over and the gas can go back down and things can get back to normal. But everybody that's watching and paying attention, not just to my channel, but to everything that's going on, you know, it should put a new level of thinking inside of our head, right? New things to think about, new things to look forward to, you know, new things to teach our kids and grandkids about how this economy works, you know? So I hope a lot of people are learning a lot. I hope you are starting to program your mind about investing, you know what I'm saying? Not just into the stock market, but into your education, into your health, invest into your kids and grandkids, invest into assets that you can physically hold, right? Assets that you can physically hold. Paper assets are great, but you also want to also invest in things that you can physically hold. So we got to make sure we understand that process. You know, digital paper assets, you know, it's good, but it's always better when it's something that you can touch. So So I think I'm in it right here, chat, as SpaceX is starting to sell off. You know, as far as the position I took in with SpaceX, as of right now, it looks like we're going to end up in the red. As of right now, because we are having a sell-off, and the average price was $168.99. That's my average price, and we right below that right now. So technically, my positions in SpaceX right now is red, which ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with seeing red in a great company that has a good reputation and long term. So ain't nothing wrong with that. Even though this was a trade, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that. So that part of the game, that part of investing is what a lot of people have problems with. A lot of people have problems with their investment being negative for a little bit. That's why you got to program your mind long term. You know what I'm saying? When you know you are invested into a great company, you understand long term. You know, SpaceX, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, shout out to YouTube, all these companies, Jack in the Box, all Walmart, Coca-Cola, Apple, all these companies, McDonald's, all these companies are, got a great reputation, are great companies. So when you have a long-term plan, you understand that. So even though I got in at 169, if it goes down to 160 or 150, I wouldn't even be tripping because I know it's a great company. I just do what? Dollar cost average down. Then at that point, I understand I would have to, it's a long-term play. It's a long-term investment, So that's how it works. Investments, when you're investing, investments are long-term. Something you can pass down to your kids and grandkids. That's what investing is. Something that when you have the mindset of, I'm going to give it to my grandkids, then you can sleep better at night, knowing that you did something productive, not only for you, but for your family. And it's a great feeling when you receive investments from your dad, your mom, your granddad, your grandmama. And it also feels good as a parent and as a grandparent when you're able to pass things down to your kids. That's what life is all about. Having that type of mindset, not only you, but when you have parents and grandparents that also teach you and also have that type of mindset where, hey, what I do, son and grandson, is for y'all. Because once we have kids, chat, life is about our kids and grandkids and our downline. Life is really no longer about us. And that's just how life goes. Because, when I'm gone, I want to be able to pass, I want to be able to live on through my kids and my grandkids. Just like my grandparents right here. This is my great grandfather. And the things that I do today and the things that my kids do and the things that my grandkids are starting to do. He lives through me, and he lives through them, because every time I do something that my grandfather taught me, well, my great grandfather right here, but every time that I do something that my great grandpa passed down to my grandpa, and that they passed down to me, I understand where it come from. That's how you live on. People think that, a lot of people think, and I don't like when people say this, chat, that when I die, I can't take it with me. That's not true. When you got kids and grandkids, you got family. Whatever you accomplish in life goes to them. And that's how we live on. When we gone, you know, that's how we live on. That's how my great grandfather right here lives on. He's still alive today because we all know who he is. Not only me, but my kids know who he is. My grandkids know how he is. So it lives on. And that's what life is all about. Life is about family. Life is about teaching and growing, you know, learning from mistakes. That's what it's all about. And one of the best ways to bring a family together is financially. One of the best ways, because if you could come together as a family financially from the foundation, everything else comes with it. Health and finances go hand in hand. Without no health, there is, you know, no wealth, you know, and that's how it works. And with the power of the internet and the power of these videos, it just takes it to the next level, you know, and that's just how it goes. And that's my mindset of all of this, that these videos and the things that I do, just like this picture, just like the things that my grandfather, my great grandfather passed down, our family blueprint, I am putting it to video. That's why I don't care about being monetized. I don't care. All I care about is getting this information out, and more importantly, my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and great-great-great-grandkids will be able to look at these videos. They'll be able to do that. That's all I care about. Everything else is just an added plus. And that's just how it goes. That's how it works, chat. Well, that's how we got to be thinking. We got to be thinking about our kids and grandkids. That's what matters. What are you teaching your kids and grandkids? You know, how are you developing them to be not only great American citizens, but great human beings? Are you laying down a proper foundation on how they should live and carry themselves? But then at the end of the day, it's up to them, you know what I'm saying, to carry on at the end of the day, you know, because that's what it's all about. And we got to understand that as parents, is that we live on. We don't, life, the physical life, like physical is short, but you live on. Life is everlasting. Spiritual life is everlasting. That's why, you know, if you're a type of person that say, well, I can't die with this, you know, that's not the way to think. That means you're not really thinking about your kids and grandkids if you have kids. You can't say, I can't die with it. You know, that's being selfish when you got kids and grandkids. And that's how we got to think. You know what I'm saying? Because my grandfather always told me always told us, grandson, the things that I do, it ain't for me, it's for y'all. When I was a kid, I never really understood it until I was able to have kids myself. Then I start to understand, oh, that's what grandpa meant by what I do, it ain't for me, it's for y'all. That's how my grandfather used to speak. And that's how it works. You know what I'm saying? And he used to always say, the things that I'm teaching you is the things that your which was his dad, but my great grandfather taught him. That's how they live on, through pictures and through blueprints and information on how to live. And you put the work in and you think, and it's programming your subconscious mind that, hey, this comes from my great grandfather. Why? Because my mama and my daddy told me this, and my grandfather told me this too. So my grandfather's living with me right now. And I get to teach my kids. I get to tell my kids. I get to tell my grandkids about my grandfather and my great grandfather. So they get to learn about they 3 times grandfather. And that's a beautiful blessing. And if God keep blessing me to live, you know, I'll be able to see my great grandkids and also be able to tell them about my great grandfather. You know, and that's just how it works. And then that's how you pass things down. That's how you live on and your family live on. Life don't end when we die, bro. Chad, life does not end when we die. Life lives on through our kids and grandkids. A lot of y'all that have been on this channel before have seen me go over there to the Veterans Memorial where my grandfather is and my grandmother, World War I veteran, is, you know, served this country. Beautiful, beautiful thing to have not only parents that have served the country, but grandparents that have served this country and the kid that's serving the country right now. It's a beautiful thing. You know, it's a beautiful thing. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's all that matters, bro. Nothing else matters. That's it. That's why, you know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody disrespect your family. Don't let nobody disrespect your family members. Don't let nobody disrespect your kids. Don't let nobody disrespect your spouse. Don't let nobody disrespect your husband. Don't let nobody disrespect your wife. In real life or on this internet. You know what I'm saying? Because it get deep. Some people you can't play with like that because it really gets deep. You know, and people that don't have that type of foundation, I kind of pray for you because there's a lot of people that wasn't raised around their parents, wasn't raised around their grandparents, ain't raising their kids, ain't raising their grandkids. There's a lot of people that don't have a family foundation. And I understand that. You know what I'm saying? But we gotta understand who to play with and who not to play with. You don't play with nobody's family. You know what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother conversation. But when I go to thinking about my great grandparents and my grandparents and my kids and grandkids, you know, I start, you know, really going into a whole nother level. But you don't play with people's family. Everything ain't a game. You know, it's really not. As now we're getting ready to do a U-shape on SpaceX. Now y'all heard me earlier. I was saying that The average price was right at 169. Now we moving it on up. We moving it on up now. Trying to get back above and break this red line right here. If that makes sense. Appreciate everybody for rocking with me though, man. Everybody that's watching this. I hope you're paying attention. You know what I'm saying? I hope if you're watching on the replay, I hope you're paying attention. I know this stuff can be kind of boring. That's why we got people come and go. But, you know, if you're paying attention, you really watching this, you know, it's good to see. It's good to know. It's good. It's all education, you know. It's all education. And that's just what it is. It's because this is a major day when it comes to SpaceX. SpaceX does amazing things. You know, spaceship goes into space and then turn around and come back and land. Crazy, crazy stuff. If you've never seen none of SpaceX's products on how it really goes into outer space and comes right back on the launching pad, you really got to check it out. It's really, really amazing to see. It really is. As we get back to 174. But I think I'm ending right here, chat. Yeah, I'm ending right here. Everybody on Twitch, appreciate you for rocking with me. Everybody on Kick, Rumble, YouTube, appreciate y'all for rocking with me. If you haven't seen, you know, a company's go public on the stock market, hope I was able to show you something. I hope you liked it. It was kind of boring looking at these charts, but I love looking at the charts. I love it. You know, I love looking at the charts. See, that's the thing, chat. And I'm going to say this and I got to go. I know y'all heard me say this a lot, people that watch the channel, but, you know, my mom and my parents put an investment book in my hand when I was like 8 years old. So the thing is, when you teach your kids this kind of stuff, my parents never had an idea, and my mom never had the idea that I would be the one that loved reading charts. My mom hates reading charts. You know what I'm saying? Most people that I know that invest don't like reading charts. They like investing, right? They like buying the companies, you know, the simple way. Buy ETF. Buy companies that you know, like, and trust. Get in the S&P 500, dollar cost average in every month, every 2 months, or whatever the case may be. But that's the power of sitting your kids down and teaching them about investing. You never know who might be the one that really, really love this stuff and take it to the next level. You know, you never know. It might be just that one family, one family member that gets whatever you teaching them and take it to the next level. Like, for instance, I'm going to use Donald Trump. Donald Trump learned real estate from his dad. His dad probably never knew that his son, which is Donald Trump, would take $1 million real estate portfolio and turn it into what it's worth now, which is billions. So when you teach your kids and you sit your kids at the table and teach them certain things, you never know which one might flourish. Like LeBron James teaching his kids basketball. He never knew that Bronny James was going to be the one that make it to the NBA. He never knew that. But when you have a foundation on your household on how you want to raise your family, and you teach your kids at the table, and you teach them, you know, a high income skill, and they love it. You know, you never know which one might be the one. And that's just how it works, Chad. So with that being said, Chad, I got to go. I was hoping it was going to get above the 177, but everything is slowing down now, as you can see. The volume is gone down as of right now. Power hour is at 2 o'clock. So maybe we'll get above this channel and go for the next leg on up. So I think I'm ending right here, chat. I appreciate everybody for coming to rock with me. Everybody that came in, I appreciate y'all. Everybody that commented, I appreciate you. Everybody that's just watching and ain't saying nothing, I appreciate you, because what this does is that it helps other people get to see this stuff. It helps other people learn about what's going on. And if you already know this stuff and you're a high income earner, you have to, when you come to this channel, you have to, give us your opinion, because that means that you're teaching other people. Because if you're watching this channel by now, this channel is about helping other people. And if you got your health together, if you got your finances in order, if you know companies that we can invest in, put it in the chat, because that's how you help other people. Because that is the foundation of this channel, is to help other people now and in the future. But what I have to start doing is I have to start recording these videos for my own personal use, because YouTube can go away at any time. So that's what somebody told me. Somebody said, Stock Sniper, don't just think that just because these videos are on YouTube that they're going to be here forever. You got to start screen recording them and storing them in your own library. So that's what I have to start doing. I'm going to have to start recording these videos and storing them in my own library where only me and my family can get to it. So that's what I'm going to have to start doing. So I got to start working on doing that, recording these things for my own library. That's what I'm working on, chat. So I appreciate y'all for joining me. Always make sure that you are earning, spending less, and you are making investments. Investments are more than just buying shares of stocks. Invest into your education. Invest into your health. Invest into your kids. Invest into tangible assets, things that you can touch. So with that being said, I love and I appreciate y'all. Chat to the next one. I'm out.